We have a quorum. The clerk will call the roll.
Alderman Moreno. Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Dow. Alderman King. Alderman Hairston. Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris. Alderman Beal. Alderman Solowski Garza. Alderman Thompson. Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Quinn. Alderman Burke. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Folks. Alderman David Moore. Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Cochran. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Munoz. Alderman Tabarez. Alderman Scott. Alderman Solis. Alderman Maldonado. Alderman Burnett. Alderman Irvin. Alderman Talaferro. Alderman Raboyes. Alderman Santiago. Alderman Wagaspack. Alderman Mel. Alderman Austin. Alderman Ramirez Rosa. Alderman Villegas. Alderman Mitz. Alderman Sposato. Alderman Lorino. Alderman O'Connor. Alderman Napolitano. Alderman Riley. Alderman Smith. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Arena. Alderman Kappelman. Alderman Pawar. Alderman Osterman. Alderman Joe Moore. Alderman Silverstein. Your Honor, we have a quorum present.
We have a quorum. I would like everybody to please rise. Alderman Raboyes will cite the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. The invocation will be delivered by Reverend E.F. Ledbetter, the third of the Mount Pisgah Missionary Baptist Church.
Just want to say God bless you to you all, and to our mayor and to all of our council. What an honor it is to be here with councilmen and our community. Let's pray. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you this morning. We thank you for life, health, and strength. Oh God, we thank you for being clothed in our right mind. God, we come to you asking you to give us the wisdom to cover this city. We pray for our mayor, oh God. We pray for our aldermen. We pray for all leadership that are here today. We pray for every community that is represented. Lord, we thank you for all that you have done for us, and we ask that you open the windows of heaven and pour us out blessings that we don't have room enough to receive. God, we pray for our councilmen today. If there be any fights today, oh God, let it be a fight over who loves their community the most. If there be any debates today, oh God, let it be a debate over who serves their community the most. Oh God, teach us how to reign like servants, oh God, and to serve like kings. God, we thank you today. We pray for our educational system. Bless the children, oh God. Let no child suffer in this city. Oh God, we also pray for our police department. There's been a lot of going on, oh God, and they suffer just like we do, oh God. We ask that you cover them. God, we ask that you touch every teacher, every public and sacred servant, oh God. We ask that you endow them with your spirit. Oh God, we know that you can do all things but fail, and so we trust in you. We pray it all in Jesus' name.
Public comment.
The council will now begin the public comment period, which is limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The time remaining for each speaker is shown on the clock on the wall. Any written comments that have been submitted will be available for automatic review at the city clerk's desk. The first speaker is Amaziah Yazrel.
Can I be heard? Okay, thank you. Good to see you again, Mayor Rahm Emanuel. How are you? Wonderful. Well, the word of Yah has come to you again today, and he's brought you into the valley of decision. He says that either you choose life or you choose death. Either you choose the blessing or you choose the curse. He says that if you choose life, that he will establish your power. He will establish your power, and that he will give you the desire of your heart. If you choose death, he will not pass over your family. He will not pass over your business. Know for certain that you will be destroyed. Now, let me remind you of Mataniah. You remember Nebuchadnezzar changed his name? Yes. Kedeziah. Now, if you remember, he came into the valley of decision too. He could either choose to listen to the prophet Jeremiah, or he could choose to go with his own will. In the end, despite what the prophet told him, he decided to throw the prophet into the dungeon. He decided to throw the prophet of Yah into the dungeon to get rid of him, to completely destroy him. However, the Ethiopian came to him, the Ethiopian slave, and told him, wait a minute, you might want to think about this. This is the prophet of Yah. So as history tells us, he decided to take prophet Jeremiah out of the dungeon. He made the right choice. And the prophet told him that because you have done this, Yah showed you mercy, and he's given you another opportunity. One opportunity only. You have to decide whether you're going to serve Yah. You know Torah, you've known it from a youth, you are held responsible for it in ways that many others are not. You have to make a choice. What is your choice? Will you choose life or will you choose death? Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is John Catanzara.
Good morning. Sticking on a religious theme, some of you in this chamber might know, some might not. For the last 30-plus years, the Cardinals residence on North Avenue has maintained 24-hour police protection from the Chicago Police Department with on-duty police officers. That's about an approximation of about $500,000 a year in taxpayer money that's spent for the Chicago Police Department to protect the Catholic Church. Seems to me it's a clear violation of separation of church and state. Taxpayer dollars should not be going for that. Catholic Church can hire off-duty police. I would hope this council would hold somebody responsible for that nonsense, stop the detail, and recover that money. It's at least upwards of $20 million plus, and it could go for the police pensions that you've failed to fund for quite a long time. Secondly, the debacle on the Dan Ryan 2 weeks ago. The simple fact is, none of you in this chamber, including the mayor, no matter how bad you might want to, can circumvent state law. It's illegal for pedestrians to be on the expressway, plain and simple. For you to condone that behavior is absolutely ridiculous, and for none of you to hold them responsible for that was beyond reproach. It's disgusting. Everybody on that expressway, civilian, was trespassing, plain and simple. And at the point that the superintendent of police became a marcher instead of a police officer, he was also in violation. He was also a trespasser. I'm calling for his immediate removal. He no longer has the backing of the majority of the men and women of the Chicago Police Department. He is the subject of an ongoing complaint with Internal Affairs for his behavior that day. And also, you talk about accountability. There was a police report generated for the behavior on the expressway that day. You know what happened to it? It was scrubbed from the system like it never happened. The report number is basically a blank file now. And you want to talk about police accountability. Start with your superintendent. He needs to be replaced.
Thank you. The next speaker is Melvin Bailey.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I'm here again just to continue talking about, and I'd like to thank some of your administration have gave us a call, which is Mr. Roger Hawkins and also Zach. And I'd like to thank these guys for reaching out to us. But, Mr. Mayor, I seen your press conference over at the Economic Summit. I know you care about the kids that's getting killed in our community. And again, we want you to adopt our programs and surround us with some of the resources so we can reach out. And I have reached out to several aldermen in passing, and we have their support, black and white aldermen, because they too would love to see some of this, reducing violence and these kids getting the guns out their hand. But what I would love for us to do is some of these big major construction sites, hey, let's target a area where a lot of violence is happening, especially in the city. Let's target one of them areas and let's go right at them kids and say, hey, we have a construction job paying you $35 an hour. Let's stop this violence. Because if we target these big major construction sites, and let's take maybe Inglewood, for instance, and target that area where it's high crime and go directly at them kids, I think their mindset will change. Because what we have to do here, Mayor and council members, this have to be a job movement. Because all the kids that I talk to, they're saying, man, give me an opportunity. Give me a job. And of course, the last city council meeting, and this is what I'm talking about, these kids want opportunities, and we're here to try to provide opportunities for them. And I'd like to thank Alderman Emma Mitz for sharing with us that she have reached out to Chicago Infrastructure Trust, saying that we want a community benefit agreement. She most definitely reached out to the community, and we love that support, and we love our support that she's given us, and we give her the same support, because this is what we need. When big major construction sites come in our community, we need to be at the table and at the forefront when the decision makings are being made, so we can positively affect our community, because this is what we need in our neighborhood, to show that when a $150 million project come up, we can be proactive and making sure that the jobs are coming to the neighborhood. And again, Mr. Mayor and city council members, I'm gonna leave you with this. If we want to start doing things differently, if we want the same results, we're going to keep doing the same thing. But if we want to start doing things differently, we have to do different things. And that's what we have to do, because, you have to start embracing these community organizations with boots on the ground that traditionally is not getting funded. You have to start embracing these groups because they out on the forefront doing a great job. So, again, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christine Ramos.
Good morning, Mayor Emanuel and Chicago City Council. My name is Christine Panos, and I'm an attorney and owner at Panos Law Firm. And I'm here on behalf of the Chicago Animal Alliance. In addition to headlines of people and horses being killed or seriously injured from horse-drawn carriages, we also have these kinds of headlines. April 5th, 2018. Couple suing Charleston Horse Carriage Company after wreck, reported injuries. Anna and Leonard Millardi filed separate lawsuits claiming they were seriously injured in a 2016 horse carriage wreck when the front left wheel of the carriage detached and the driver lost control of the carriage. The carriage, drawn by two mules, wound up striking a brick facade and a fire hydrant. According to her lawsuit, the plaintiff claims she was thrown from the carriage by the impact with the bricks and the hydrant, resulting in broken bones in her foot. February 7th, 2018. Judge makes decision about a woman dressed as a T-Rex who scared carriage horses, causing an accident. Police said when the horse-drawn carriage carrying 16 people was on Church Street, a person dressed as a Tyrannosaurus Rex began growling at the horses. The spooked horses backed up, the carriage driver fell out, his leg was caught in a front wheel, and he was run over by the carriage that then hit a parked vehicle. September 25th, 2017, Oregon bride injured in crash files $155,450 lawsuit. After the plaintiff and others boarded the carriage, the horses bolted and ran out of control. The carriage driver was unable to control the horses or the carriage. Carriage hit several objects over a course of significant distance and ultimately turned over. Passengers were ejected. As a result, the plaintiff and her other passengers and guests were injured. March 30th, 2017. Family files lawsuit against Lewis County Carriage Company for injuries from runaway horse. Litigation between 2.5 and 5 million in individual damages sought for those injured at Southwest Washington Fair. The sheriff's office noted that the carriage owner said a forklift spooked the horse. One of the plaintiffs, Jake Morgan, suffered head trauma and was airlifted to Harborview Medical Center. His 4-year-old daughter, Helen, suffered head trauma also. Do you hear the common theme here? Horses spook, and no amount of training can stop a 1,000-pound animal from bolting and likely injuring or killing passengers, pedestrians, or himself. Ironically, perhaps the owner of one of the defendant companies previously mentioned summed it up best, stating in an interview, "Even your best trained animal, it's going to startle. It'll startle the driver. It'll startle anybody on the carriage. It's like a bang." Please use your positions of power to support the ordinance 2017-8598, introduced by Alderman Riley. Not only is it the humane thing to do, it's the intelligent choice, as banning horse carriages will ultimately protect Chicagoans and tourists from being another tragic headline. Also, please vote in favor of Ida B. Wells Drive ordinance. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The next speaker is Paula Routzone.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor and the City Council. My name is Paula Routzone, and I live along the route where the carriage horses walk to the carriage stand located in the loop. I'm here today to help bring attention to the horse-drawn carriages and the horses being used to run them. Horses are housed in windowless stalls, approximately 150 square feet large. Just enough room for the horse to stand or to lie or to stare at a wall all day. They are in a city building surrounded by condos and businesses, so there's no grass, no dirt, field, no running, no playing, no normal socialization for the animals, as they are held in individual cells for weeks or months at a time before they are rotated back to the farm. They get to deal with the traffic, the loud noises, the vehicle exhaust, the extreme weather conditions, and long working hours. A life of being strapped with heavy equipment and lugging people around is no happy life. Some of their pain must come from the bits in their mouth to leg injuries from walking on pavement all day. These horses do not belong in the city. Even having horses move to large parks in the city is not the answer. They still have to travel 3 to 4 miles one way from the carriage company to get to Lincoln Park and still have unsuitable living and working conditions. The answer is to send them to sanctuary. There are half a dozen cities in the U.S. that have banned carriages and would love to see Chicago ban them as well. We have at least 150 signatures from businesses around the city that support the ban, including legislatures, veterinarians, horse rescues, and advocacy groups, animal protection organizations, attorneys, local restaurants, animal shelters, and more. Most of these companies and organizations have thousands of supporters, and 2 of our endorsers boast more than 250 million Facebook followers. Just to illustrate the majority of society who no longer approves of animal exploitation for profit, whether it's in the name of tradition, romance, or entertainment. In addition, more than 15,000 people have signed an online petition to our petition to end this inhumane, archaic activity. Please listen to the will of the people and the right side of history and support humane measures that will save lives. And I, too, stand in favor of Ida B. Wells Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sally Berlin.
Sally Berlin, Lincoln Park. Since we spoke here last month, the following disturbing headlines from July alone made the news. July 20th, I quote from an article, "Carriage horse runs wild through downtown. Turned into Peabody, nearly hit several pedestrians there. That's when I noticed there were 2 people in the carriage," he said. "Another carriage driver tried to chase down the driverless carriage, but it was going too fast. It ran right through a group of pedestrians, leaving a woman face first on the pavement." Another article, "French Quarter buggy carrying 10 people flips over." July 13th, "A mule-pulled buggy flipped over, leaving 1 woman trapped underneath the carriage and the mule on the loose." July 8th, 8 injured in carriage accident after horses are spooked. After the horse-drawn wagon accident at Fox River Resort, 9 people ranging from 1-year-old to 30 and older were transported to local hospitals. This happened just an hour away from Chicago, which illustrates that no city or region is immune to these tragedies. There have been at least 10 more horse carriage accidents that we know of around the world in the last 3 months. Many horses died or seriously injured in those, but the following headlines involve human suffering. July 11th, Corsville man killed in free course in carriage accident. May 10th, state senator escapes injury in runaway horse carriage. April 10th, American couple killed after horse-drawn carriage crashes in Ireland. These are just the casualties we are aware of. There are many more accidents that don't make the paper since the media and concerned citizens are not always around to witness incidents. In fact, a policeman just told us how he witnessed a Chicago carriage horse collapse at the carriage stand in June. He said it took handlers about 5 minutes or so to get the horse back on his feet. The poor horse. Chicago has had at least 5 accidents that we know of since 2014. That's a lot of activity. That's 100% unnecessary, especially when 4 children have to be rushed to an emergency room. Luckily, they were okay, but what if the opposite were true? Would Chicago have passed a horse ban then? How many more deaths and injuries must occur before Chicago does the right thing? Become the progressive city it should be and ban this incredibly inhumane and highly dangerous activity. Please remember these carriages have 0 safety precautions. There are no seatbelts, no airbags, and any child or adult holding an infant can take a ride without any sort of child safety seats. Our beautiful city doesn't need an ugly headline about tourists dying during a horse carriage ride. Thank you for your time, and please vote in favor of Ida B. Wells Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Marla Rose.
Hi, good morning, Mayor Emanuel and the Chicago City Council. My name is Marla Rose. I live in Berwyn, and I love to come to Chicago, but I avoid the Mag Mile as seeing the carriage horses who look so defeated depresses me greatly. On May 20th, 2018, a Chicago carriage horse was standing nearly lifeless with his head hanging low in pouring rain with absolutely no protection from the elements or handler nearby. Not only is this incredibly inhumane, but it is illegal and a real danger to the public. The driver was nowhere to be seen, yet Chicago's law states drivers must remain with the carriages at all times, having control of the horse by having the reins in hand or within arm's reach. The fact that these horses were completely unattended is an accident waiting to happen. Please remember that horses are prey animals and can and do spook at the slightest noise or disruption. Also, an umbrella opening is what prompted the latest horse carriage incident in New York City, where multiple passengers had to be rushed to the emergency room. Additionally, numerous horse experts, including veterinarians, have expressed great concern about the antique coach and carriage horse who was standing in the rain with his irregular posture. Here are just a few of the quotes that they gave us about their concern. 1, this is clearly an abnormal compensatory stance the horse has adopted in order to relieve pain. This particular stance is called goat on a rock stance and can be caused by a number of different problems. 2, he is uncomfortable, but it could be his hooves or his joints, conditions like ring bone or side bone. This is sad to see. The public doesn't know any better. They just see a pretty horse. 3, his front feet are back too far. This sort of stance is characteristic of horses with navicular, a painful heel condition which can be caused by shoeing and too much road work with shoes on. The front legs are going back and the hind legs are tucked under, really stresses joints in his back. And the next quote is, I agree that the stance on this horse appears abnormal. He could be suffering from chronic pain, causing him to stand in a particular way. Since horses, carriage companies, and drivers are not being monitored by the city, the police, or animal care and control, they are not getting the proper care or veterinary oversight. A progressive society tries to prevent unnecessary suffering. Please make Chicago a kinder city by supporting Alderman Brendan Riley's humane measure to ban horse carriages in Chicago. And I urge you to support the Ida B. Wells Drive ordinance. And also, I'm asking Mayor Emanuel, also a New Trier alumni, to ask Alderman Mitz to put this carriage horse ban on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jody Whitaker.
Good morning, Mayor Emanuel and Chicago City Council. My name is Jody Whitaker, and I'm with the Chicago Alliance for Animals. Chicago's 3 horse carriage companies have forced their beloved horses to work in 90-degree plus heat numerous times this year alone, as well as last summer. It's important to note that neither the heat index, the humidity, nor the asphalt temperature, which can be 30 to 50 times hotter than the air temperature, is ever taken into consideration. And this is where the horses are walking. Also, the temperature is taken at Northerly Island. That's what the law states. Northerly Island is on the lake and is likely cooler than where the horses walk and work. This is not only incredibly inhumane, it's illegal, and it happens often, just like we witnessed in June numerous times and on Memorial Day. City agency Business Affairs and Consumer Protection is tasked with the job of protecting these animals, but once again, this agency is failing. In spite of the recent heat warnings, BACP still has no investigators working on weekends to be sure the horses aren't worked in temperatures above the legal limit, or to make sure the drivers aren't working them longer than allowed. I've called BACP numerous times to make sure to ask if they are going to monitor when the heat is intense. I never receive any phone calls. In response to my tweets, they have told me that they will investigate claims and fines will be issued only if the appropriate evidence is in order. This is not and should not be the job of concerned citizens. It's significant to point out that neither the city, the police, nor Animal Care and Control monitor or enforce Chicago's laws meant to protect the horses and public. City attorney with BACP had informed me early this year that none of the carriage companies had tried to comply with the law or provide materials that the city had requested in order to do so, even though they had plenty of time and months to do so. She'd also told me that all settlements were off the table, but now we know that BACP has settled with at least 2 of the companies, and I'm certain that they will settle with the 3rd company on August 1st. But we have no idea what has become of these citations and upwards of $200,000 worth of fines. But we do know that the carriage companies are routinely still breaking the law and exploiting horses. Myself and others have spent hundreds of hours of our own time doing BACP's job for them. It's clear that no amount of tickets and fines will prevent carriage horses from being abused. Thank you, Alderman Riley, and the 24 other aldermen who support this humane measure. Finally, I'm asking Alderman Emma Mitz to put this progressive legislation on the agenda in the Committee on License and Consumer Protection and recommends its passage in the full City Council. Thank you very much for your time and consideration today, and I also urge you to support the Ida B. Wells ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is George Blakemore.
Citizens, I value citizenship. Citizens, civic, government. I am anti-illegal immigrants invading our global city. Illegal means against the law. Look it up in your dictionary. Legal means within the law. And in a few minutes after my 3 minutes is up, this sergeant of arms will come up and say, sit down, Mr. Blakemore, because the law says 3 minutes. I'm appalled. I just can't believe it. The invasion of people that do not respect other people's borders, do not want to go through immigration and naturalization, do not want to stand in line, want to skip. We are a nation of law. So these illegal immigrants has a negative effect on the black community, competing for jobs, goods, contracts and services, health care, Section 8, welfare, and everything, and especially in the hospitality industry. Black people used to cook, they used to wait tables, wash dishes, not in that industry anymore. There been, and you know, black leadership is silent. How does it benefit your community when they are even gonna vote? The illegals are gonna vote. They get driver's license. They get a little card that say they're citizens of Chicago. But that card doesn't say that they a green card, that they're legal and citizens of the United States. They talk about Trump. We got a lot of Trumps right here in our city. We got Trump. The Democratic machine is allowing this invasion, and it has a negative effect on the most vulnerable black population in housing again, in schools. When they come, they compete, they close up the black schools and open up these other schools for these illegals. They got to educate them, and then they get health care. I'm poor and I stand in line. I go to Stroger. I got to pay. When some of them don't have to pay. So black people are subsidizing these illegals. Look it up in the dictionary. Legal within the law. Illegal is not the law. Citizenship is very important.
Thank you. The next speaker is Scott Burr.
Members of the City Council and Mr. Mayor, my name is Scott Berg, and I'm a resident of Albany Park and the 33rd Ward. I'm here to talk to you about an issue of public safety. The city has been remiss and derelict in its duties to keep its trees and branches trimmed to the point when the shrubbery blocks information on road and traffic signs. I mean the important ones, such as stop signs and yield signs. A walk through my neighborhood, and just about any Chicago neighborhood, will find these stop signs blocked by branches that have not been trimmed. For example, the stop signs at the following locations on the northwest side are obstructed by branches and foliage. Northwest corner of Lawndale and Ainsley, southwest corner of Lawndale and Leland, southwest corner of Drake and Ainsley, southeast corner of Leland and Kildare, southeast corner of Springfield and Ainsley. These examples in my neighborhood are heavily traveled, and this is the tip of the iceberg. This is probably an even greater problem in the lower income neighborhoods. Each sign is to communicate a message to the driver, and that is not done when the city is negligent in its duties and a hazard is created. I give you examples of just stop signs, but this lack of tree trimming presents additional problems such as low branches hitting pedestrians. An aldermanic staffer once told me that the city has only 3 people assigned to these tree trimming duties. With such low staff, the duties are not performed for a city with 10,856 square miles. This becomes 3,618 square miles proportionally for each of the 3 staffers, an unfathomable task and thus totally inadequate. The city can ignore this problem, and then one day a kid will get killed by someone flying through a stop sign, and there will be a fall guy. Let us not forget the lessons of the E2 nightclub, the porch collapse incident, or the flooding of the tunnels in the 1990s when action was needed and someone was fired as the fall guy. The city needs to be proactive on tree trimming as a public safety issue. Being proactive would be to properly fund the tree trimming in branch offices and ensure these offices have adequate staff to perform their duties. Any whining about lack of funds or resources is silly because when the city needs to find money for a project, the city will and does find funding. Let us look at the example of the planters in the middle of LaSalle Street or the funding of a DePaul sports stadium, which has a marginal interest. If there is money for these projects, there is money for public safety. Please properly fund and staff the branch offices and do the proper tree trimming before a catastrophe occurs. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jackie Page. Jackie Page.
My name is Lola Marchese. You've most likely heard my name due to the recent correspondence with CACC, CPS, and the City of Chicago from me and my friend Desiree Prindell. I appreciate your consideration to re-examine CACC and its policies and practices. I would like to personally thank you for your prompt attention to this. First, this new policy of killing heartworm-positive dogs in 2 weeks is not no-kill. This is a policy that is not publicly supported and needs to be readdressed immediately. I do hope you consider the following: a new cleaning schedule and more accountability for the custodians there who are supposed to clean the cages for the animals who have to live in them. Building a state-of-the-art teaching and treating veterinarian hospital within CACC to end animal suffering and support a much-needed community city animal clinic within CACC. In addition, we need to add more kennel space for all animals. Given the size of our city, the space we have is inadequate. More educational programs for schools and communities to teach responsibility and empathy with shelter dogs. Please consider implementing Mudagrees, a Yale University curriculum, in our public schools. Data has shown it reduces anger and violence in students and improves academic improvement. NYC public schools have successfully expanded from 7 to 42 schools. Consider creating breeding licenses and follow up strict enforcement on backyard breeding to reduce intake and overpopulation of animals. Please make the effort to stop excessive breeding. It continues to be a financial drain in our society and pushes those that have no voice. Putting a new director in place who is honest, has compassion, truly believes in the well-being of animals and making sure they come first, and supports no-kill. A leader who will bring Chicago together and not separate us. Implement foster and rescue programs with qualified people. Chicago needs to do better for both the animals and the humans. Otherwise, we continue to fail. Mayor Emanuel, will you meet with me to assist you in making these changes and other crucial matters? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The time allotted for public comment has expired.
Chair, now it's time for resolutions. Madam Clerk.
A tribute to late Edward Eugene Sadlowski, a resolution from His Honor the Mayor and the members of the City Council. Whereas the members of this chamber were deeply saddened to learn of the death on June 10, 2018, at age 79, of Edward Ed Eugene Sadlowski, a Chicago labor icon who fought valiantly for the rights of thousands of workers. And whereas Ed Sadlowski was born on September 10, 1938, in the South Chicago neighborhood, he married his high school sweetheart, Marlene, in 1959, despite the two growing up on different sides of the tracks. The happy couple were married for nearly 60 years until Ed's passing. And whereas a third-generation steelworker, Ed grew up witnessing his father, Edward Sr., working for Inland Steel and becoming a founding member of the Steelworkers Union Local. And whereas Ed left school in 11th grade, worked as an apprentice machinist, and bravely served in the U.S. Army, he returned to South Chicago and began a job as an oiler in the machine shop of the United States Steel South Works. His habit of walking around the planet, oil can in hand, talking with rank-and-file members, marked the initial steps of his illustrious career fighting on behalf of steel workers and earned him the nickname of Oil Can Eddie. And whereas he rose quickly as an organizing force for the United Steelworkers Union, at age 26, upset a favorite incumbent to become the youngest president of the United Steelworkers Local 65, overseeing 23,000 workers. A decade later, he ran to become president of the United Steelworkers, largest region, District 31, representing 128,000 workers in Chicago and Gary, Indiana. After challenging the initial election results and succeeding in court, he won the reheld election nearly 2-1. And whereas in 1977, running as an insurgent candidate for the United Steelworkers International Presidency, Ed rose to national acclaim and nearly unseated the chosen candidate with the Steelworkers Fight Back campaign, advocating for the ability of local union leaders to ratify contracts, the importance of the right to strike as a bargaining tool, and criticizing the rank-and-file union leaders as out of touch. And whereas Steelworkers Fight Back campaign captivated the nation with legendary Chicago author Studs Terkel remarking that it was more important than that year's presidential election between Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter. And whereas Ed remained a leader in the labor community, serving on the local panel of the Illinois Labor Relations Board for nearly 20 years, and was inducted into the Illinois Labor History Society Union Hall of Honor in 2012. And whereas Ed ardently championed the rights of union members to have a voice over their own contracts, their right to strike, and their dues, shaping the culture of the labor movement in the United Steelworkers. And whereas a driven man, he fought fiercely for and empowered Chicago workers, Ed will always be remembered as a legendary labor leader, a mentor, and a friend to many, and a distinguished son of Chicago. And whereas Ed is survived by his beloved wife, Marlene, his 4 children, Alderman Susan Salowski Garza, Patricia Hoyt, Edward Salowski Jr., and Diane Engelson, 11 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren, and countless friends in the labor movement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the mayor and members of the City Council of the City of Chicago, assembled this 25th day of July 2018, do hereby honor the life and memory of Edward Eugene Sadlowski, and be it further resolved that suitable copies of this resolution be presented to the family as a token of our sympathy and esteem.
Alderman Burke.
Mr. President, I move the temporary suspension of the rules for the immediate consideration of this resolution.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Your Honor and ladies and gentlemen of the council, as the resolution points out, the nation has lost a towering figure in the American labor movement and a true champion of the rights of working women and men. Ed Sadlowski, the former president of Local 65 and director of District 31 of the United Steelworkers, devoted his whole life to furthering the cause of reform within the ranks of organized labor. He was a true Chicagoan, an honored veteran of the Korean War, a loving husband and father, and a man possessed of deep convictions, who began at the age of 18 as an oiler in the machine shop of the U.S. Steel South Works. Like his dad before him, Ed was a union man through and through, passionate about maintaining solidarity within the rank and file and driving out the influence of all those who sought to compromise or undermine the honesty and integrity of the union movement. Ed engineered the historic steelworkers' fight back in opposition to the USW's experimental negotiating agreement, a promise made to powerful heads of the major steel firms that the union would not strike. Well, no one within the ruling USW cadre bothered to check with the 1.4 million members before, so Ed took action. He ran for the directorship of USW District 1, representing 300 locals, but after losing the suspiciously conducted election, the Department of Labor investigated and discovered voter fraud and ordered another election, one that was closely monitored and supervised. Ed took his steelworkers fight back movement nationwide in a bid for the presidency of the union in a campaign that drew national media attention, and for him an appearance on the nationally televised Meet the Press show. Ed lost the election, but inspired by deeply held values, firm principles, and fearless courage, he literally transformed the Steelworkers Union in a remarkable way, defeating inequality by promoting inclusion, acceptance, and granting voice to all through the empowerment of the working membership. In recognition of his lifelong fight that he waged on behalf of working people everywhere, Ed was enshrined in the Illinois Labor History Society's Union Hall of Honor in 2012. To Marlene, his wife of so many years, his daughter, and our respected colleague, Alderman Susan Sadlowski Garza, her siblings, Edward, Patricia, and Diane, we are this morning conveying our heartfelt condolences at this time of their grieving. May God now grant to Ed the reward of everlasting peace. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Garza.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving my family this opportunity. My dad had the tenacity and drive to make sure the working class always had a fair shake. He taught me not to be afraid, and he taught me to speak up against unjust and unfair practices. He taught my family to stand up for the little guy and to fight for a living wage, a fair work week, and safe working conditions, regardless of where you live or the color of your skin. I'm proud to have been raised within the labor movement. This past year has been really difficult for our family. And I want to thank everyone, all my colleagues in City Council for the hugs when I needed them and your kind words and your advice. Remember, together we are strong, divided we fall. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be recognized? Alderman Harris.
To my colleague, I want to thank you for your tenacity, because I don't know if I could have got up and been so brave. I probably wouldn't have never made it through the first sentence. But know that there's a reason for everything, and that God always makes the right decision. And so I say that you have my prayers, our sympathy, and our love, and I'll be there to hold your hand whenever you need me to, and we'll get together and have that cup of coffee, and we'll cry on each other's shoulders. God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Alderman Austin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to say to my colleague, as I have said many times in this council, earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal. Susan, a daughter like yourself, I know your father is smiling down on you because you've stayed steadfast to the teachings of the man before you, and that was your leader, your dad. I'm going to say it one more time for the tears that you're shedding now. Earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal. So when you feel like you can't take anymore, just call on the Lord. I guarantee you he'll be there for you because your dad is there for you now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Boyes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sue, I stand here and I understand your pain because I've been through it. And it's a terrible loss for not only yourself, your entire family. Just want you to know that your thoughts and prayers are with you on behalf of my family and the constituents in my ward.
Alderman Munoz.
Mr. President, thank you for recognizing me, and I stand in support of this resolution. Oil Can, the stories are legendary, and his daughter is should be proud. Sue, our family's prayers and our organization's prayers are with you and your family. Your dad taught us all how to be a good union representative, a good union boss, a good union organizer, and I feel honored to have known him, and we all share in your pain, and he's very proud. He's very proud of the entire family, and mostly of what you've done here in the City Council. Thank you.
Alderman Mitts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too stand in support of this resolution and just want to extend my condolence on behalf of my family and the residents of the 37th Ward. I just want to leave with you, because we all go through the loss of our loved ones without mothers or fathers. But one thing that you all need to hold on to is the remembrance and the life and the legacy that he shared with you for all those years. Let it live within your heart, and once you find that place, then you'll be able to move forward in life, because they'll always be with you. Thank you, and God bless you, and we'll keep you in our prayers. Thank you.
Alderman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of this resolution. Sue, from my family and the constituents in my ward, you have our deepest condolences. One thing that I would like for you to keep in mind is, you know, they talked about, and you talked about the tutelage that your father has given you. He would be very proud. I have not seen a stronger advocate and fighter on behalf of the working class men and women in the city of Chicago and unions than you. You know, if I ever wanted to go and go to battle for the working men and women of this city, I would and your father would be proud of that. And so I just, again, wanted to offer you my condolences to you and your family from my family and the men and women of 24th Ward. Thank you.
Alderman Solis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I still stand here in support of this resolution. Sue, what a legacy. What pride you and your family must have for the legacy that your dad left. And I also want to note that your family is very representative of hardworking class people in Chicago, of Polish and Mexican American, and I'm so proud that you serve on this council with me, and I'm always admiring the way you're committed to what's fair and just for the working man and woman here in the city. Thank you for being part of this.
Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of this resolution. I'm honored to be able to sit next to you, Sue. I talked to you over the last year, and I know it's been a struggle for you and your family, to your entire family, the Sidlowski family. I just want to express my condolences on behalf of the residents of the 11th Ward, and then personally, I know our families have been friends, so on behalf of the Daly family, my family, I want to express my condolences to all of you.
Alderman Telefano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of this resolution. And to the Siglowski family and Susan, I sincerely offer my condolences. Actually, you popped up in my conversation about a week ago, and I was explaining to someone that whenever you feel down and not feeling your best, or even when you're feeling great, Sue Sedlowski Garza gives the best hugs. And I think all of us can say that. A hug from you has always been comforting, and today we all extend a hug to you in return. So thank you so much for all that you've given us, and we'd like to give back to you on this day. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Dowell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I too rise to be associated with this resolution. To Susan and your family, want to express my condolences on behalf of the residents of the 3rd Ward. I know, Susan, that this has been a really tough time for you, and I know that you've been a great daughter, and that your father is proud of you and is looking from high, looking at you and your family and keeping you in his prayers as well. If you need anything, I'm available to whatever you need. Love you. Thanks.
Alderman King.
I too rise to be associated with this resolution. Sue, while I didn't know your father, his legacy precedes him, and I do know one thing, or several things about him. He must have been kind, strong, steadfast, and passionate, because I see that in you and your son, who I knew. So I just want to wish you my condolences and let you know that if you need anything, we're here.
Alderman Burnett.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I also like to rise in support of this resolution. My condolences to you and also to your family. You know, as it appeared, it seemed as though your dad wasn't a pushover. In our neighborhood, we say he wasn't a punk. So you should be very proud. He should be proud of you. His legacy live on in you. I know you're not a punk, so I know his legacy is carried on. And God bless you, and God bless your family.
Alderman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also stand in support of this resolution. You know, Sue, I know that you've been suffering and struggling this past year, taking care of your dad, and I know that all of your family members have been doing the same thing. I know what it is to go through this moment, and at the end of the day, sometimes we feel that the ultimate result will give and bring some peace, not only in this case to your dad, but also to your family. I know that grief will never go away, You will go through phases and stages of grief every so often, routinely, the same stages repeatedly every so often. But I want to offer myself to as a friend and as somebody that will be there to share your pain. That for now it's going to be very intense for many months to come, and it's not easy to talk about this because it brings my own memories as well. So, but I'm here to support you in every way that I can.
Alderman Joe Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. The name of Ed Sedlowski is not only legendary in labor circles, it's legendary in the all circles where people are fighting for fairness, for justice for all. I first became aware of Ed Sedlowski when I was in college and followed his successful battles against some corrupt union leadership. You know, unfortunately, sometimes the leadership in labor forgets who they're there to represent. Every step of the way, Ed Sedlowski knew that he was there to represent his neighbors, his peers, the average working men and women. I had the pleasure of meeting him on several occasions when we worked together on the Harold Washington campaign, and very much admired his dedication and his idealism and his pragmatism. I learned more about Ed Sedlowski when I started dating and later married an East Side girl. One of the best moves I've ever made, quite frankly. And she too was very inspired by Ed Sedlowski. So I share with you my sorrow at his passing, but also my joy in the fact that Ed Sedlowski was here on this earth to do good and to improve people's lives. My condolences to you. My condolences to you as well, Sue, on your loss.
Alderman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City Council. I too rise in support of this resolution. Sue, I am not going to look at you. You know that you have my love and my support. You have my shoulder. You have my ear. I will ride with you anytime. There is a special bond between a father and his daughters. So to Sue and your sisters, I share in your grief, and I just want to extend my condolences on behalf of myself, my family, and the residents of the Fifth Ward.
Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise to add my voice to this resolution to give my entire condolences to the entire family in this time of grief. I will tell you, I called Sue on numerous occasions because she would miss city council meetings, and so I would just call to check on her to see how she was. And let me just say, the level of respect that I have for you to understand that family came first, and that you put the trust in your family and the trust in your staff to carry on the day-to-day operations of the job. But every time I called you, you were right there taking care of your father, making sure that he was well taken care of. And for that, I'm deeply grateful for you, and to understand that family comes first. And because this job will be here when we're all transitioned out, this job will continue on. But you kept that first and foremost, taking care of your family. So thank you for that, and I appreciate you. God bless the entire family.
Alderman Silverstein.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this resolution. Sue, as a colleague and a friend, I extend my condolences to you and to your entire family. I'm sure that your father is up in heaven looking down, smiling at all of you right now. So whatever you need from me as well, I know you're hearing it from a lot of people here today, but we're here, we have your back, we're here to help you in whichever way we can.
Alderman Carcass.
Thank you, Rush, for this resolution as well. A lot of respect for you, Sue,
and the legacy that lives on within you about your dad. Everything I read about him is it was what a great man, great integrity, and knew what should be done right for the workers. You keep that legacy on, taking care of the little guy, not just the workers and that are organized, but the little guy that is looking for help, that no one he doesn't know where to go to. I know with those hugs you give, you can tell that you care, and I think this whole council ought to be hugging a little bit more.
Alderman Mel.
Mr. President, I rise in support of this resolution. I too am part of the losing of a parent club, and it's not easy. The hardest for me was when something happened and I would just reach for the telephone and wanted to reach out and tell my mom, but she wasn't there. And so what I did was I just said it out loud, and you know, it gets better, and I'm here for you, and I'm really sorry for your loss.
Alderman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Susan, my neighbor to the east, my condolences go out to you for somebody who has lost their father. I know what you're going through. I have a lot of respect how strong you were over the last year as you went through that with your father, and you didn't know this. At times, you made me remember my father and how you were dealing with it. Gave me a little bit more strength in order to carry on. But on behalf of all the residents of the 7th Ward, which you know, our condolences to you and your family. And you always know whatever you need from me, you got. And two things, she does give the best hugs, and Leslie Harrison and Susie Riser together is not a good thing. Once again, my condolences.
Alderman Kappelman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sue, I too rise and support this. When I read your dad's obituary, I was amazed, and at the passion that he has, and now it's clear where you got that. Now your dad's living his life through you, and you have an angel on your shoulder, and I send my regrets that this has happened. I lost both my parents, and it's difficult, but pay attention to your dreams. You'll have lots of visits. Thank you.
Alderman Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise to support this resolution. Susan, the apple don't fall far from the tree. I echo Alderman Harris. I don't think I could have sat here and listened to all of these great things that people had to say. I would have been crying a river. But stay strong as you've always been, just like the unions are. And we support you 100% for myself in the 18th Ward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Given it, Sue, given there are no other speakers, your dad, as I said to you on the phone, no one fought harder, no one spoke louder, and nobody did more for his fellow workers than Ed Zalowski. He is not only, he leaves a life and a legacy behind that shaped this city, shaped the union he fought for, the families that depend on it, and also the labor movement. And this resolution is a small way, a milestone, a recognition of the change he made. And I want to thank you and your whole family for sharing him with the city of Chicago, making this a better city. And I know that there'll be many days ahead with that emptiness, that sense of where is he? Just know that you got a lot of people here, not just in this council, but your family who love you and love all of you. And he has made a difference in this city. And you should not all, I hope this moment, take away the appreciation we all have for your father. Thank you. Alderman Burke.
Mr. President, I move the adoption of the resolution by rising vote.
Please rise. Madam Clerk. Resolutions?
A resolution from His Honor the Mayor and Alderman Curtis, Raboyes, and Sawyer. Whereas the members of the Chamber are pleased to be informed of the recent establishment of the Black Fire Brigade, an important new organization in the city of Chicago. And whereas the Black Fire Brigade seeks to stimulate community interest in African American fire and EMS service history, as well as educate individuals about fire prevention and fire safety. And whereas the group held a ribbon-cutting ceremony to mark the formal opening of its clubhouse last month at 8404 South Kedzie Avenue, Chicago's Ashburn neighborhood, as a place for mentoring, support, training, historical remembrance, and community for Chicago's firefighters, EMS personnel, and the next generation of leaders. And whereas the Black Fire Brigade contributes to the community by working to improve employment standards, introducing fire service initiatives, creating opportunity for community collaboration, and celebrating art and culture. And whereas the Black Fire Brigade represents community concerns about fire rescue and EMS rescue services and supports them by adding a voice to public discussions, spreading awareness, and promoting fundraisers. Whereas the organization engages in conversations that stimulate interest in new technologies, strategies, tactics, and general operating procedures to benefit and improve fire and EMS rescue services. And whereas the Black Fire Brigade also honors fallen colleagues and helps these individuals' families serve as active role models for their children and honoring Chicago's 13 African American firefighters who have died in the line of duty. And whereas Quentin Curtis launched the Black Fire Brigade after witnessing a decades-long struggle by African American firefighters at EMS personnel through court cases, hoping to instead drive progress and develop camaraderie through the organization. And whereas the opening of the clubhouse, the result of efforts by firefighters and EMS personnel from all over, was an emotional and important event, particularly in the light of historical barriers faced by African American firefighters and EMS workers. And whereas in May, the brigade brought together African American female firefighters, including the city's first such firefighter. Many of the women did not previously know each other or know Maddie Rowski, the inspiring first African American female firefighter in Chicago. But during the event, the women formed a network of support and fellowship. And whereas the Black Fire Brigade commits to be active community participants and pledges to protect the fire services that exist today while honoring the history and heritage of the African American firefighters. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the mayor, and members of the City Council of the City of Chicago, gathered together this 25th day of July 2018, do hereby welcome and thank the Black Fire Brigade for the interest and commitment and better serving the City of Chicago. We look forward to seeing their good work throughout the Chicago's communities. And be it further resolved that a suitable copy of this resolution be prepared and presented to the Black Fire Brigade as a token of our esteem and respect.
Alderman Burke.
Mr. President, I move the temporary suspension of the rules for the immediate consideration of this resolution.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Your Honor and ladies and gentlemen of the council, it's incumbent upon all of us to remember, I believe, and in addition to open our hearts and give thanks to our firefighters who sacrifice and put their lives on the line every day to protect their fellow citizens. This morning, the mayor and the members of the City Council are pleased to be able to congratulate and extend appreciation to the membership of the Black Fire Brigade for the heroic service of African American firefighters and emergency responders, preserve and honor a rich historic tradition of service and valor to the people of Chicago. This is a new organization, I'm told, the Black Fire Brigade, organized earlier this year, but already it's made a positive impact in raising historic awareness by mentoring young people, promoting community services, and sponsoring educational training and scholarship opportunities for the next generation of firefighters and emergency responders. Last month, the Black Fire Brigade cut the ribbon for their permanent new home at 8404 South Kedzie in the 18th Ward, led by Alderman Curtis, our distinguished colleague. It had to be a highly emotional moment for the current and retired members of the fire department and a symbolic break from the injustices of the past. Inside the building, the memorial wall honors fallen members, including Corey Ancom and Edward Stringer, both killed in the line of duty on December 22nd, 2010, during a deadly South Side fire. This is going to serve as a clubhouse and training facility, but also a community center and a source of immense pride, drawing people together in the bonds of friendship, camaraderie, history, and networking. We congratulate the leader of this movement, Chicago Fire Department Lieutenant Quentin Curtis, for his dedication and leadership in seeing through a noble vision for the formation of the Chicago Black Fire Brigade and all it has accomplished in such a short period of time. On a historical note, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen, there may be some people here in the audience today, and maybe even some members of the City Council, that might not know the historic role that black firefighters have played in the national history of firefighting. Perhaps some people don't know that the fire pole was invented here in Chicago by black firefighters. And perhaps some people don't realize that there were African American firefighters, Nick, you probably know this, serving on the Chicago Fire Department in the 19th century. Just imagine that iconic symbol of firefighting and quick response that has marked the history of firefighters throughout the nation. That fire pole that we all have imagined as youngsters, on which firefighters jump to slide down and get onto the apparatus, began right here in Chicago in an African-American fire company. So this formation of the Black Fire Brigade is a continuation of that historic legacy that firefighters all across the nation have enjoyed since the late 19th century here in Chicago, the most American of American cities. And this is one more chapter in that great history of firefighting and life-saving in America. Thank you for what you represent today, and thank you, Mr. President, for offering this opportunity to recognize this significant historical effort here in Chicago, the most American of American cities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Royce. Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, support this resolution. As the Chairman of Public Safety, it gives me great pleasure to not only congratulate the members of the Black Fire Brigade that are here today, but to also commend them for thinking about the community and the importance of educating our community. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for taking the leadership to take on this responsibility. Thank you. Alderman Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, stand graciously to be a part of this resolution. I am proud and excited of the direction that this organization is going. As a young man growing up in Cabrini Green chasing fire trucks, I think God has granted you, Quentin, and the Fire Brigade an opportunity to reach back and to other African American kids and give them an opportunity to be what they can see. I look forward to working with you from here on out. Thank you for being a part of others' lives. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of this resolution. To my fire brothers and sisters, as a extremely prideful detached member of Engine 125, Truck 53, Battalion 8, God bless you and open this brigade. It's terrific. There's nothing better than a strong brigade in a community that is going to take pride in teaching and educating a neighborhood on fire prevention. And you're going to do it. You're going to do it where you live. You're going to do it where you hang out. You're going to do it where the people that you know, and you can get to them and tell them, hey, you hear that chirping on that smoke detector, change the battery. You get in your community's house and explain to them how important it is to have life-saving measures set up in these families, in these neighborhoods, so when there's a fire, what people need to do, how to get out of the house. Nothing better than a brigade in a neighborhood. God bless you. I support you. This is awesome. Very very happy, and you give me so much pride in the fire department that you're doing this. God bless you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Austin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise to be associated with this resolution. I can say to Lieutenant Curtis, a vision realized. I can recall when you were speaking of this several years ago of what you wanted to in regards to the Black Firefighters Brigade. But for a vision that you have made come to life, God is well pleased. Because it's not just about yourself, but it's about young adults as well that want to learn what you all do. I can recall a time when Alderman Leslie Hairston and I thought we wanted to go through the training section. We put on our uniforms that you all wear, the boots, the helmet, the hats. I couldn't raise my leg to go up the stairs. I had a great amount of respect for you all after that training section. Leslie couldn't put hers on. She didn't want to get her hair wet. Couldn't go through the smoke box. We couldn't do any of that. Yeah, you did go through the smoke box. But I tell you, for the training that it takes to be a firefighter, it is absolutely awesome. So when you see a burning building anywhere, know that the men and women that go into these facilities for your safety, the training is what have instilled in them. Lieutenant, you've also been charged with one other activity, and that's to be the president of the fire brigade. I know that you'll do an outstanding job because you realized the dream that you had, the vision for the black firefighters. Alderman Curtis, I want to thank you on behalf of Alderman Moore and Alderman King and I for inviting us out to the ribbon ceremony. It was absolutely spectacular. But to see the fallen firefighters on the wall gave us pause to say that we are very, very proud of you to be citizens of the city of Chicago, the greatest city in the United States. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Sawyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of this resolution. Q, I want to thank you for inviting me, and I particularly want to thank Alderman Curtis for inviting me to a breakfast recently at the fire brigade, and I learned a lot while we were there. And as far as we've come, we still have a long way to go. One of the things I will share that I learned from Q and others, that this was formerly an all-white fire brigade that they purchased. And the uncomfortable part about it, no one showed up at the closing. They could not close at the same time. So again, we have a long way to go with reforming the fire department. And I thank the fire brigade for standing up and standing out on issues that relate to black firefighters. Again, we support you, and we want to make sure that you give us all proper information, that we make sure that you are held accountable, but at the same time that you're respected and admired in the fire department as we look for inclusion and advancement for black firefighters. We want to make sure that we stand with you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this resolution, and also to commend my colleague, Alderman Curtis, for such an outstanding effort and a completion for this organization. I want to take my hat off to all of the adults over there who are part of this process, of this brigade, of mentoring, of leading, and supporting and training young. And I want to also tell the young people that that's one of the greatest professions that you could ever have. A profession is what I said. That's what it is. One of the first people I saw in uniform as a little boy was my brother, who came into my home in a firefighter uniform years and years and years ago. And I was always impressed from that point on. It's a dangerous job, very dangerous job. In fact, it was the days when they didn't have masks and other things like that, and he got overcome by smoke about 3 times. Hospitalized and had to leave the job because of lung problems, and eventually passed because of cancer. It's a dangerous job. It's an important job. It's something to be very proud of. And we are proud of you, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Alderman David Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of this resolution. There's a proverb that says, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And Lieutenant, you had this vision, and that vision is realized. And the important thing is that by you exposing young people to this, that the people will not perish from us having African-American firefighters in the fire department. We always say, and this rings true, our young people cannot be what they cannot see. And part of your vision is allowing them to see that they can be firefighters, they can be leaders within the fire department, a whole slew of professions within the fire department, even beyond just being a firefighter. And by creating this and establishing this brigade, it allows them to see those opportunities. I want to commend my colleague, Alderman Derek Curtis, for taking up this initiative and working with you all to see that this is realized. And not only that, it gives us the space to come through where we can connect and have fun and relate with our young people in a more relaxed environment and educate as well. So I look forward to spending some time at the facility, and I commend you all for the effort and everything that you all are doing to further African Americans within the fire department. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City Council. I too rise in support of this resolution and congratulate you all. You know, all the kids I talk to, there's even in this day and age, kids always still want to be a fireman. And sometimes, somewhere between the time when they want to be a fireman and they get older, they change their mind. And so what I am hoping that this center will do is to help inspire some young people to continue through and continue with their desire to be a fireman. Alderman Austin, I did go through the box, and I made it out alive. I think as long as it
The
took
record
me,
is now clear.
the record is clear. That was hard, and it seems like it took a really, really long time. So when everything in your body is screaming, get out, and you all are still going in, that is amazing. Fire knows no color, and smoke knows no color. And so I am glad that you all are recognizing the work that you have done and the contributions you have made to the fire department, even when they did not treat you the way you should have been treated. So I am glad to see this. I support you. Please take your message throughout the city. All of the girls and boys need to hear that. Thank you.
Alderman Burnett. Alderman Spazzato.
No,
Oh,
thank-
you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here. Thank you very much, Mr.
I thought you were in the box.
You're not fast enough, man. You're not fast enough.
Alderman King. Alderman Spazzato. Okay.
Come on, man. Hey, it gives me great pleasure to stand here in honor of my homie, Quentin. We grew up together. We played in the sand together, swam in the swimming pools, fought each other. When we were little kids, matter of fact, we even ran against each other back in 1995. I am so proud of you, man, myself and Jesse White and everyone from the neighborhood. When we were little kids, this guy and another guy named Eric Sloss used to play like they were firemen. And everyone used to say, these guys, they think they firemen. And lo and behold, when they grew up, they became firemen. Quentin, I'm so proud of you, man, to take and reach back and pass it on to the other young people, because if you see it, you can believe it and you can do it. You saw it way back then when all of us thought you were just playing around. You know, you and Eric had on your little fireman uniforms and hats and were hanging around the firemen when we were little kids. And then you guys grew up to be firemen. I appreciate the fact that you've given these other young people the same vision, the same hope, and the same belief to be able to be firemen and serve our citizens in the city of Chicago. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of your son. I'm proud of your whole family, man. Congratulations to you, and whatever we can do to help you, myself, and I speak on behalf of Jesse White also, you know it's family, man. We got you, okay? Congratulations.
Alderman Spazzato.
Mr. President, I too support the resolution. First, I want to thank my colleague, Alderman Curtis, for helping out and pitching in and making this happen. So thank you very much, Alderman. Just want to congratulate you guys very much. Just to let the rest of my colleagues know, the schools, the parks, the churches, every time they need something around, they always go to the firemen or the policemen. So we're always there when you need us. So keep up the good work, guys. Proud of you. Hope to stop by someday and get a tour. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman King.
Thank you, Mr. President. Alderman Curtis. I, too, rise in support of this. Just want to say congratulations to the Black Fire Brigade and on its future endeavors for the community and helping the city with the hurdles that African American firefighters face. Lieutenant Quentin Curtis, or Q, you really embody what the power of one can do, and so I'm proud of you personally. Look forward to working with you in the future, and just want to say congratulations.
Alderman Talafaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of this resolution, and want to congratulate the Black Fire Brigade on their establishment. But also want to say to my colleague, Alderman Curtis, job well done. Mr. President, I think it's very important that we continue to recognize, support, and encourage the efforts of our first responders. It's something that I've noted since my first day of being in this council, that we have recognized the extraordinary duties of our first responders. They go beyond what is expected of them. They've gone beyond just their ordinary duties. I look back very recently where we recognized some of our first responders in their relief efforts in Puerto Rico. And I think it's very appropriate that we recognize today the extraordinary efforts of the Black Fire Brigade, particularly those of mentoring those in our community and providing continued awareness as to fire safety and fire prevention. So I thank you so much for all that you're doing to help make our community a better community. So thank you so much, Mr. President.
Given there are no other speakers, I want to add my voice as the mayor of an administration that settled the Lewis class case. Also the administration that changed the rules that if you were a graduate of Chicago Public Schools, city employment, whether it's police, fire, or other efforts, were open finally. The reason this is so important is we all know the history of the fire department, like other agencies in the city of Chicago. And there's a new day here and coming together, and I do want to take a particular note. For all the elders that lived at a time in which the fire department did not reflect all the values and all the strengths of the city, you didn't just take your victory and take it home. You knew you had an obligation to another generation never to go where you went, to not have to walk in that high a grass with that high a set of barriers. And so to all the students that are here, this time, you hear it all the time, but this time, listen to your elders. They're cutting a path for you. They blazed a path when others would not listen. And I think as Alderman Sawyer said, sometimes that continues today. They were there when the city turned its back, and they had to keep knocking on the door. Know that this moment in time, as they mentor you, open your eyes up to a profession, a career, a calling. There are those that went before you that it wasn't easy. In fact, it was actually more than not easy. It was particularly hard, and it was hard. It was meant to be hard, but because the door did not say wanted. So to the Black Brigade, I want to thank you for reminding us of our responsibilities where we have fallen short and we have more work to do. Congratulations, not just on this resolution, but what this resolution reflects. Thank you. Alderman Burke.
I'm going to ask the Sergeant at Arms to give Lieutenant Curtis a copy of this fact sheet about fire poles. But it's interesting to note that it was Engine Company 21 here in Chicago on April 21st, 1878 that created the first fire pole. They were largely mocked by the Chicago Tribune.
That's so out of character for the Chicago Tribune.
So what's new, right?
Yeah. Nothing's changed
I
around
hope,
here.
The next time I have a chance to visit the headquarters, I'll see on the wall an exhibit that tells the story of the invention of the Chicago fire pole. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I move the adoption of the resolution, the omnibus, unless there's objection.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Madam Clerk, resolutions.
A resolution from His Honor the Mayor and Alderman Munoz. Whereas the members of this chamber are pleased to congratulate the Chicago Youth Boxing Club for its outstanding service to the youth of Little Village, North Lawndale neighborhood. And whereas the Chicago Youth Boxing Club's mission is to give youth a constructive, healthy alternative to gang violence and drug activity while helping them build the skills and determination to achieve a positive future for themselves and their community. And whereas CYBC, a sports-based development program grounding in boxing and physical conditioning, helps kids achieve academic, professional, and personal goals and build community awareness. And whereas CYBC's mission is to provide kids with discipline and focus to succeed in their academic extracurricular pursuits. CYBC also improves kids' health by increasing their knowledge of fitness and nutrition and provides them with work readiness, training, and leadership skills that will increase their employment prospects and earning potential. And whereas the core values of discipline, unity, education, health service, and leadership are celebrated and emphasized every day at CYBC. And whereas three of the most outstanding students in the CYBC program are Felix Gonzalez Jr., George Perez, and Omar Perez. And whereas Felix Gonzalez Jr. is one of the best boxers in Illinois, has been invited to train in Colorado Springs, Colorado for the 2020 Olympic boxing team. Among his many accomplishments, Mr. Gonzalez won the 2013, 2016, and 2017 Silver Gloves National Championships. From 2011 to 2016, he was the Illinois State Champion, and from 2011 to 2017, he was the Junior Olympic Champion. Mr. Gonzalez is enrolled at Bremen High School in Midlothian, Illinois. And whereas George Perez is the current 2017 Power Gloves champion in the 140-pound weight class, he is also the 2016 Illinois Junior Olympic champion. Mr. Perez was the 2016 WBC amateur champion and is enrolled at Farragut Career Academy High School. Whereas Omar Perez is the current 2017 Power Gloves champion in the 120-pound weight class. He is a 2016 Regional Junior Olympic champion. To his great credit, Mr. Perez is ranked number 9 in the nation in his weight class. Mr. Perez is enrolled at Farragut Career Academy High School. And whereas CYBC is fortunate to have two fine coaches, Fernando Messias and Gabriel Navarro. In addition, Victor H. Rodriguez, pastor of La Vieta Community Church, sits on the CYBC board. These men have done an outstanding job of instilling confidence, pride, and ambition in the youth of Chicago Youth Boxing Club, so they can reject gangs and violence in favor of better life. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the mayor, and the members of the City Council of the City of Chicago, assembled this 25th day of July 2018, do hereby congratulate Felix Gonzalez Jr., George Perez, and Omar Perez for their success at CYBC. And be it further resolved that a suitable copy of this resolution be presented to these student boxers as a token of our esteem and good wishes for their continued success.
Chairman Burke.
Madam President, I move the temporary suspension of the rules for the immediate consideration of this resolution.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Your Honor and ladies and gentlemen, the members are pleased to be able to congratulate Coach Gabriel Navarro, Coach Fernando Macias, and the members of the Chicago Youth Boxing Club for their outstanding accomplishments in the ring, and not only in the ring but in life. As exceptional athletes and young men of character, of heart and determination in the little village North Lawndale community, they have set a wonderful example for others to follow. It was boxing great Muhammad Ali who once said, "Champions aren't made in the gyms. Champions are made from something they have deep inside them, a desire, a dream, and a vision. Discipline, hard work, rigorous physical training, and cultivating their leadership skills are the essence, hallmarks of this program, championed by their coaches and Pastor Victor Rodriguez of the La Vieta Community Church, who serves on the CYBC board. Coach Macias and Coach Navarro have made Muhammad Ali's words a self-fulfilling prophecy for the CYBC boxers. CYBC team members Felix Gonzalez, George Perez, and Omar Perez are counted among the best amateur boxers in the state of Illinois, and commend them for the individual honors they attained in their respective weight classes. Each shared a common dream and experienced the satisfying realization that's derived from achieving those dreams. So we're pleased to join with the mayor this morning in extending congratulations to these CYBC boxers, their coaches, and their family members. Thank you, Mr. President, and good luck to all the young men that are such stirring examples from the community.
Alderman Munoz.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I too rise in support of this resolution. Pastor Victor Rodriguez, a couple of 15, 17 years ago, took on this building on 23rd and Millard, right by Shed Park. And it was an old abandoned Union Hall that is now a place of worship, a basketball gym, a couple of community-based organizations are there, and turned the basement into a boxing club, Chicago Youth Boxing Club. It's the best use of space that we could have dreamed of, Mr. President, because there we see young lives changing. There we see young men and women practicing their art. And as you see today, young professional men who are in the boxing arena aspiring to be Olympic hopefuls, already champions in their weight, whether it's 123, 141, or other weight. They are in fact changing lives, and I'm proud of them, and I'm happy to be joining this resolution honoring them and the Chicago Youth Boxing Club. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Oh. Alderman Burnett.
Thank you very much. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Pastor Vic and these young men. I just want to say God bless you for what you do. You know, it's an interesting mix with boxing and religion. I know you help these guys to be motivated and do right by God, but also you give them another form of self-esteem in being boxers. I had the pleasure of having your son intern for me before. He had so much confidence, and he was so proud, and he was so proud to let me know how good his right hand was and his left hook was. You know, I just commend you on helping to keep these young people out of trouble, Pastor. God bless you for being unorthodox in your way of reaching these young people. Congratulations to all of you young men. Congratulations.
Alderman Sposato.
Are you sure?
No.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, want to support this resolution. As a former boxer myself, the boxing clubs back in my day, those were all the good kids, Amundsen Park, La Follette Park. It takes an intense amount of courage to get out there and stand there one-on-one with a guy. And most people think, 3 minutes is nothing. I mean, it seems like an eternity. So I think when I was boxing, we started off at 2-minute rounds, and then the good guys, the open divisions, got the 3-minute rounds. But best wishes to all you guys. May God be looking after you guys and making sure everybody's okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Harrison.
Oh, that's me, right? I too rise to support this resolution and congratulate the young men over there. I went to a boxing match maybe a couple of months ago, and there were both girls and boys. That's something that I would not do at all. But I noticed this belt back here, and so the question I have, did he earn it? Did he earn it? Did he get in the ring and box? I didn't see
mine.
yours.
I earned mine.
You earned yours. All
Unlike
right.
Munoz,
I know he's a fake.
Yeah. I
But
fight by rules.
congratulations, you all do a great job.
Pat. Oh, Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you. I too joined this resolution. By the way, I'm a big supporter of the boxing club, whoever knows. And I urge my colleagues that love boxing to get behind this young man. We were just talking about boxing and how to do it, what to target. It's a strategy. And I like the fact that they're using their minds and also their bodies. So congratulations. Keep up the good work. And don't stop. You got to be the Alexis Arguello, those big heavy hitters of yesterday. We need some new young blood in boxing. So congratulations.
Reverend, I want to thank you. Since the time we met, you told me about this program. And I want to thank you for sticking with it and allowing the city to be part of what you're working on. And when we were at the Little Village community meeting, Alderman Munoz, myself, you, and you mentioned not only, again, you were talking about the program, but more importantly, you were talking about what some of the individual young men are doing. And I think, Eric, you're on your way now to the Olympics, the Junior Olympics. So I do want to say to all of you, a lot of what's being said is about the training that goes for the ring. I actually think that training is not just for the ring, it's for outside and the journey of being responsible individuals. And to the Reverend and all the other members, I want to thank you for making sure that Little Village, North Lawndale young men have proper role models and actually help train them to be responsible citizens. Congratulations. Alderman Burke.
The adoption of the resolution and the omnibus unless there's objection.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Alderman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to temporarily suspend the rules to make an introduction of Jim Hobson for a resolution that we will be introducing later.
Okay. And hearing no objections, so ordered.
Again, Mr. President, would like to, if Mr. Hobson can stand up. Mr. Hobson is a park supervisor at Garfield Park, has been in service at the Park District for over 37 years. Is 37, Jim? 38 years. And he is retiring in the next week. And so just wanted to give him honor and deference. He is a Vietnam veteran. He is the creator of Late Night Basketball, a program in the Chicago Park District in the late 90s and early 2000s. It saved, I would say, hundreds and hundreds of young kids' lives. He has been instrumental in my life. He was my first supervisor. Came back as a area manager and then managed him. But he has been a great friend of Chicago, a great friend of the Chicago Park District, and would be remiss without recognizing Jim. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Alderman Scott?
Yeah, I don't know where the clerk is, but
Right-
with him,
right in
no,
front
not
of
that
you.
clerk, I'm sorry, the clerk of Cook County, not David Orr. With him today, I failed to mention, is his wife, who is right there, I think his godson, his area manager, and David Orr is somewhere around here. They're all here. Oh, I'm sorry, David's back there. I apologize. Who are all here with Jim to celebrate with him today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Moore?
Alderman Scott's permission, I'd like to add my name to this resolution honoring Jim Hobson. I've known Jim as long as I've lived in Rogers Park, which was nearing on 40 years. He got his start in Rogers Park. He took a little tiny field house in a park called Kiwanis Park that no longer exists because we've expanded it to make a campus park up by Gale School. But the Kiwanis Park field house was about half the size of the anteroom behind the council chambers. And yet he was able to organize these amazing programs involving hundreds of kids involved in organized sports activities and winning championship teams and really literally saving lives, keeping kids in productive activities off the streets. And it was just an amazing experience. And it was that experience at Kiwanis Park in Rogers Park that caught the attention of Forrest Claypool, who at the time back in the 1980s was head of the Park District. And he convinced Jim to leave us to go to Garfield Park on the west side. So he went from one of the smallest parks in the city of Chicago Park District system to one of the largest and took all the successful things he did there and multiplied them by 100-fold. So I'm very, very proud to count Jim as a friend. He has been an absolutely integral part of the Rogers Park community and of the Chicago Park District, and I wish him very well in his retirement.
Congratulations, Mr. Hobson. Oh, Alderman Irvin.
Thank you, Madam President. The West Side was the very fortunate recipient of Supervisor Hobson. Believe it or not, Jim is probably responsible for just about every West Side basketball player making it big. He was the one that opened the gym to numerous young people, and the passion that he has for young people in our community it will be very difficult to replace. Mr. Hobson, for as long as I've been dealing and going to Garfield Park, has always been a fixture, someone that's provided love to those that needed love, a hug to kids that needed hugs, and always had hot dogs available for the basketball games that drew more people there for the food than the actual basketball. But I will say this, though. Again, a lot of young people owe a debt of gratitude to Mr. Hobson. He kept a lot of people off the street. He was one of the innovators in midnight basketball on the west side of Chicago that probably saved countless lives. So the work that he's done throughout his tenure with the Chicago Park District and on the west side of Chicago is something that I and the residents of the 28th Ward are eternally grateful for. His time, his commitment, and always wanting to get the job done. Jim, thank you, and I truly appreciate your service. I want to say this on behalf of Ed Smith as well, because when you came, he was the alderman, and he always spoke. He said, "Never let Jim go." But I guess you got a chance to sign those papers before I could get to you. So congratulations and God bless you.
Communications. Chairman Burke. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Communications.
A series of communications from His Honor the Mayor to the Honorable the City Council of the City of Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development transmit herewith ordinances authorizing the execution of intergovernmental agreements with the Chicago Park District regarding TIF assistance and associated conveniences. Your favorable consideration of these ordinances will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. Referred to the Committee on Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmit herewith an ordinance authorizing an allocation of TIF Small Business Improvement Funds. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. Referred to the Committee on Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmit herewith an ordinance authorizing the sale of NHS Redevelopment Corporation portfolio to Villa Capital and associated provisions. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. Referred to the Committee on Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmit herewith an ordinance authorizing a modification and subordination of a city mortgage for South Chicago SLF. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. Referred to the Committee on Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmit herewith an ordinance authorizing the execution of a plaza reconstruction agreement with 601W. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. Referred to the Committee on Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Budget Director, I transmit herewith an ordinance authorizing a Fund 925 amendment. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on the Budget and Government Operations. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmit herewith an ordinance authorizing a Class 7C tax status for CPMOK TVP LLC. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on Economic, Capital, and Technology and Development. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmit herewith an ordinance authorizing the sale of city-owned properties. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on Housing and Real Estate. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Fleet and Facility Management, I transmit with here an ordinance authorizing the sale of 8363 South Kerford with 501 West 84th on behalf of the Board of Education. Favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on Housing and Real Estate. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, I transmit with here an ordinance amending Chapter 4-8 of the Municipal Code and associated provisions regarding pop-up restaurant licensing. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmit herewith ordinances authorizing the expenditure of open space impact fees. Your favorable consideration of the ordinances will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on Special Events, Cultural Affairs, and Recreation. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Buildings, I transmit here an ordinance amending Chapter 4-290 of the Municipal Code regarding electrical contractor registration and related trade licensing. Your favorable consideration of the ordinance will be appreciated. Very 2 years, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Ladies and gentlemen, I have reappointed Nadir H. Albert D., Stephanie A. Cantor, David J. Mussett, and Nabila Rashad as members of the Chicago Commission on Human Relations for a term effective immediately and expiring July 1st, 2021. For favorable consideration of this appointment will be appreciated. Very 2 years, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. Refer to the Committee on Human Relations. Ladies and gentlemen, I have reappointed Zaid Abdul Alim and Daisy S. Lazama as members of the Board of Ethics for a term effective immediately and expiring July 31st, 2022. For favorable consideration of these appointments will be appreciated. Very 2 years, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. Refer to the Committee on Committees, Rule and Ethics. Ladies and gentlemen, I transmit herewith appointments of various special service areas. Your favorable consideration of these appointments will be appreciated. Very 2 years, Rahm Emanuel. Refer to the Committee on Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, I transmit herewith appointments to the Low Income Housing Trust Fund Board. Your favorable consideration of these appointments will be appreciated. Very 2 years, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor. For the Committee on Housing and Real Estate. I, City Clerk Anna Valencia, hereby inform the City Council that the following documents were filed in my office related to the respective subjects designated as follows. Chicago Transit Authority Annual Ride Hailing Fee Report using use of investments to fund infrastructure improvements, Inspector General's quarterly report for period in June 30th, 2018, and Inspector General's corrected audit report regarding contractor compliance with Chicago base wage ordinance. I, City Clerk Anna Valencia, also informed the City Council that all those matters which were considered by the City Council on June 27, 2018, which were required to statute by be published in book or pamphlet form or one or more newspapers, were published in pamphlet form on July 25, 2018, by being printed in full text and printed pamphlet copies of the Journal of Proceedings of the City Council, City of Chicago. I also informed the City Council that the ordinance authorizing the issuance of City of Chicago Series 2018-1 Water Revenue Project and Refunding Bonds and Series 2018-1 Subordinate Lien Obligations and associated amendment of Section 2-106-040 of the Municipal Code regarding the powers and duties of the Commissioner of Water Management, which was passed by the City Council on June 27, 2018, which was requested to be published in the special pamphlet form, was published in special pamphlet form on July 6, 2018. I also transmit herewith the following miscellaneous communications and reports regarding City Council action. Zoning reclassifications of particular areas, which are referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards, and 2, claims against the City of Chicago, which are referred to the Committee on Finance.
Alderman Dell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to suspend the rules for the purpose of introducing 2 students who are working in my office this summer on behalf of the residents of the 3rd Ward. And they're here with us today. They came down specifically to see how council operates. And so I want to introduce Kyra Smith and Constantine Carrigan, who are working with me this summer. Both of them are, one goes to the University of Chicago Lab School, that's Constantine, and Kyra is a student at the University of Chicago Woodlawn campus. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Welcome to the Chicago City Council meeting. Committee reports. Finance, Chairman Burke.
Your Honor, reporting for the Committee on Finance. The committee on the addendum summary has 2 matters pending. First one, requesting information from the budget director and various city agencies on the child separation policy, and a second matter to add child welfare agencies to the institutions, places, or facilities requiring licensing as child service facilities. I have a substitute I'd like to offer. I think it's been distributed to the members today. You should have it on your desk. It's signed by Alderman Solis and I. The other matters will be held. The hearing that was conducted, I think, was quite interesting, and it could be that some members would like to comment on this. I think Alderman Maldonado had some observations, and I'd like to retain the right to close the debate.
Alderman Maldonado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indeed, I am in support of Chairman Burke's efforts. I sat in that hearing 2 days ago, and I was perplexed as to the way that Heartland Alliance responded to the questions that Alderman Solis, Alderman Burke did ask of them. It seems to me that they were attempting to hide activities from this body, and it didn't leave you with a good taste in your mouth. I felt impotent because we don't have any oversight over them. We don't have any oversight, just like we have oversight with every endeavor that that occurred in the city of Chicago with respect to organizations, with respect to businesses,
business affairs, license their activities, and we have oversight obligations over them. In the case of Heartland, that have housed, and we don't know what has happened to many of those children that have come from the border. We cannot get any straight answer from Heartland Alliance, and they even came across somewhat arrogant when they were describing their position that they could not reveal any information to us, and they were hiding behind ORR, and they could not even tell us who is funding their activity, if it's Homeland Security, ORR, or who. But yet, they get about $12 million from the city of Chicago, and we have no right to ask questions of them. So I think that this is an action by the chairman of the Finance Committee and Alderman Solis that to keep pushing for this that point in which we can license these operations such as Heartland and be able to have oversight obligations upon them, and that they can so that they can come and answer questions to us. Thank you.
Alderman Solis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to bring back the issue or the reason why this ordinance was put together and why we had a hearing last week, which, Mr. President, you and I sponsored, that brought Heartland Alliance to come and testify. And that reason was very, very important and very serious. We're talking about X number of children, and we still don't know what that number is, whether it's 66 or whether it's 73. And we still don't know what ages, whether they're infants, 7 months old, still breastfeeding, or whether they're older children. But if you stop and think about the issue, and stop to think about the parents that are still at the border, maybe still being held, who were separated from their kids anywhere from a month to 2 months now, and they know that their kids are in different parts of the country, and I know that if they're in Chicago, and they know that there's municipal authorities, us, elected officials, some of us being also Latino and Mexican like they are, or Latin American from Honduras, Guatemala, or etc., they would want to know that we as elected officials are going to make sure that whatever facility, whatever organization is taking care of their kids, that they're taking care of their kids. And that's simply the main issue that has to be considered here. Now, I'm not blaming Heartland Alliance for what the administration did with their zero tolerance, but they could have acted sooner. The information that was given at the committee meeting this week could have been given last month in June, when all this issue was being exposed, when this atrocity was being exposed. And so I think that the legislation that we're going to pass, it's a substitute, but it basically identifies that we are going to do inspections, and I think that's a good thing to do, to find out if the facilities that are taking care of these kids are adequate enough to be safe. We're going to identify how many kids, what ages they are, and we're going to identify where these facilities are. There won't be this mystery of, oh, we can't give you information because the federal government is prohibiting us from doing that. We're taking matters into our own hand. And Mr. President, you've said it many times. Sometimes the federal government, many times the federal government, sometimes the state of Illinois, don't do the job that they need to do. And it falls on our shoulders, our responsibility, to make sure that not only citizens, but especially children that are being housed here in the city of Chicago, they're going to be taken care of, and we're going to be responsible that they get taken care of. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Joe Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me start out by first saying that I'm going to vote in favor of the substitute, not because I'm thrilled with it, but because politics is the art of compromise, and it's far better than what was originally proposed. Let me provide some context here. One of the facilities that Heartland operates is in my ward. It's been in my ward long before President Trump initiated this reprehensible policy of separating children from their parents. And we need to separate this issue from that reprehensible policy. I think we all agree in this city council that what this president and his administration have done is absolutely contrary to our values. It's reprehensible. It is an utter shame. Heartland has been housing young, undocumented, unaccompanied minors for, I would guess, at least 15 to 18 years. I'm not exactly sure, but they've been doing it a long time. Before they did that, those children who came across our border without parents and were picked up by immigration authorities were literally put in jails. They were jailed with adults. That was certainly an unconscionable thing to do. And so fortunately, our federal government contracted with agencies such as Heartland to put these children in facilities that were much more humane, that were more like school dormitories than jails, while we figured out who these children were, where their parents were, and make sure they were returned safely to the arms of their parents. They've been doing this for a long time. Nobody here called for inspections or accounting. We knew they were there. We knew they were doing this. But it was only until there was a news media report in the Washington Post which alleged that here in Chicago, some of the recent immigrants, those children who were separated from their parents due to this policy, were mistreated. Well, those are serious allegations. Those are allegations that need to be investigated. But they're only allegations. How many times have we been a victim of misinformation in the news media? Rather than rush into solving a problem that may or may not exist, why don't we see if these allegations are true at a minimum? And then, if they happen to be true, let's thoughtfully put into place a regulatory scheme, working with our partners at the state level, that is both thorough as well as cognizant of the taxpayer dollars. Because even in this scaled-down regulatory scheme that we're going to be voting on today is going to cost the city money. Why don't we first find out if we have a problem before we try to solve it? As I said, I'm going to vote for this substitute because it represents certainly a much better version than what was originally introduced, but I do so very reluctantly. Thank you.
Alderman Chairman Burke.
Well, Mr. President, I think the hearing that was conducted before the Committee on Finance was quite informative. Prior to the time that Alderman Solis and I raised this issue, the inspection agencies of city government, which one would suspect would be best suited to guarantee these kids are going to be in a safe setting, did not even know the addresses where they were housed. I didn't know, and I'm sure that most of you didn't know, that this subsidiary of Heartland is taking in $50 million, and that we only discovered because we were able to review the 990s that are filed with the Attorney General. And that's 2 years ago. I don't know how much they're collecting now, because now, since that 990 was filed for 2016, they're taking in these infants. One would have to ask oneself, does it make sense to bring a baby from 1,000 miles away to Chicago? I don't think any of you knew up until a few weeks ago, till the story was published in the Washington Post, that maybe 77 kids are here in Chicago. We learned from the testimony of the gentleman that heads up that Heartland subsidiary, they were brought to their doorstep by an armed ICE agent. A little baby in diapers being brought to this agency by a ICE agent. What are they afraid of? And of course, I didn't know, perhaps most of you didn't know, that the president of Heartland had entered into an agreement with the Board of Ethics and paid a $1,500 fine after the president admitted that she negotiated her salary and job conditions while she was the commissioner of the Department of Children and Family Services. $361,000 a year. At least that was 2 years ago. I don't know what the salary is now, but that's what the 990 reflects in the Attorney General's office from 2016. But she's not the only one. The gentleman that testified here, who is the executive director of the subsidiary that is taking in $50 million, at least in 2016, his salary is $232,000. Now, there's a whole list of these executives: $232,000, $193,000, $243,000, $165,000. So when you put that into perspective, you know what the salary of the superintendent of police of Chicago is? $202,000. The fire commissioner is $202,000. The superintendent of police is $260,000. Now, the president who negotiated this agreement with the Board of Ethics, and it's also interesting, if you read the settlement agreement, there's not a single mention here of Heartland Alliance. Not a single mention. It refers to the SSO, which I guess means Social Service Organization. So Alderman Dowell also had some questions at the hearing. She told us how she has one of these facilities in her ward. 2 weeks ago, she was there trying to welcome the organization to her neighborhood. They turned her away. The alderman can't get in, according to the testimony, because someone at the Office of Refugee Resettlement told Heartland that they couldn't allow the alderman in. Well, I've learned today, we started asking some questions, the Cardinal Archbishop of Chicago, Cardinal Zupich, you'll be pleased to know, has been admitted to take a tour or a visit today. You know that he has been trying to get permission for 4 weeks. On June 25th, he asked for an opportunity to visit. One would think, as a prince of the church, a cardinal archbishop, he would be someone that would be granted approval. So, Alderman Dowell, don't feel too bad. If the cardinal can't get in for 4 weeks, be patient. Oh, but by the way, his staff has not been approved for a visit. This apparently is the same official from the federal government who won't allow Heartland to tell this body how many of these children are you housing? Oh, no. We can't tell you that. Well, why not? Taking these children, giving them over to an armed ICE agent who then delivers them to Heartland has to raise some questions. If not just common sense questions, what is the federal government doing here? This is preposterous, which is why, with all due respect, Your Honor, that's why Alderman Solis and I originally sought to have the fire department, the health department, and the building department look at these places to see if there's smoke detectors, to see if there's CO2 detectors, to see if the food service is being conducted in a way that complies with the health code. Finally, last week, a task force of city investigators inspected these 5 locations that are located in the city. Perhaps that's a step in the right direction. One would think that, number one, the Department of Justice ought to stop this. This is cruel. It is inhuman. It is senseless to move these infants 1,000 miles from where they're taken to here in Chicago unless there's some real reason. So I'm sure this is not going to go away, Your Honor. Hopefully, this is a wake-up call. Thankfully, the building commissioner, in reviewing the facilities along with the fire department and the health department, did not notice any serious questions, but it is strange that facilities she went to didn't have any of these babies. I don't know where they have the babies, but if you listen to her testimony, she only saw teenage kids. But at any rate, I think it's a wake-up call that there's not a lot we can do to stop the federal government from this travesty, but we can, I think, influence the agencies that are partnering with the feds in this process. So, Your Honor, I'm reluctant, as Alderman Moore is, to vote for this because I don't think it goes far enough. But in the interim, while we continue to look at it, I would move that the substitute be adopted in the omnibus unless there's objection.
Hearing him, do you want, Alderman Poir, would you like to address? Alderman Poir? And then I'll go back to your motion, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, there was a headline the other day that said, agency that contracts with the Trump administration. Let's take a step back and recognize that Heartland Alliance began as Traveler's Aid. over a century ago. Take a step back and recognize what Heartland Alliance does and the kind of services they provide. But before I go there, I just wanted to say, if there was wrongdoing where the children were housed, that should be fixed. If you want better results from social service agencies, fund them. If there were people or staff that committed a crime, they should be charged. But the idea that Evelyn Diaz or David Sinsky or the other senior staff at Heartland somehow looked the other way, or that somehow they themselves cut a deal with the Trump administration, is just not true. These children should have never been separated from their families. They shouldn't be in Chicago. They should be with their parents. But they're here. And if any agency should be taking care of them, it should be Heartland Alliance. They do God's work. And so when I hear Evelyn Diaz's salary or David Sinsky's salary, they're underpaid. Because we've leveled and in many ways destroyed the social safety net for social service agencies, such that I know that the Office of Refugee Resettlement and Immigrant Community Services Heartland, where I was an intern, is on its last legs because the Trump administration has cut refugee resettlement. So now we have all these refugees here that we have to serve that came here escaping poverty and terror, and they don't have the money to provide those services. Number one. Number two, Heartland Alliance gets $1,500 per person to resettle refugees from the Department of State. $1,500. So for a family of four, it's $6,000 to find them housing, to get them access to mass transit, to get them signed up for public aid, to get them the basic necessities so that they can make a life, start a life here in the city of Chicago. And the idea that we're now holding them up as and conflating them with the Trump administration is just wrong. Again, if something happened there and one of the staff, if there was abuse, if there needs to be inspections and a check, let's do that. But don't demonize a social service agency that government and society leans on because government won't do its damn job. And I just want to say one last thing. The city of Chicago took in 10,000 people, 10,000 evacuees after Hurricane Katrina. Not one went homeless. In fact, many people recovered, were either able to move back or start a life and be in a better place as a result of the city of Chicago's response to Katrina. And do you know who was in the lead? Heartland Alliance. They led the effort. We're going to fix a problem with the facility, fix it. These kids should have never been separated. The administration is disgusting. The president is a bad person. The actions of his administration they are the ones who are separating families. And if we're going to bring them anywhere, I want them at Heartland Alliance, while the federal government should be doing its job reuniting these young children and toddlers and infants. I don't know what else to say other than where are we as a country where now we impugn social service providers for our political ends? Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, do you want to move your motion? Mr. Chairman? Hearing roll call, or do you want to just move it? Okay, hearing no objection, so ordered. You want to go to the next time, or I would like to speak for 1 second on this. I think it's very important. I think that the city of Chicago stepped forward in an appropriate way, because the fact of the matter is, for a long time, no president of either party ever embarked or activated what is called the zero tolerance policy until Donald Trump came about. separating parents from their children, and now we're discovering parents are sent back without their kids. We would not be in a situation if we did not have a president and administration that went to a place that no other president, no other administration, regardless of party, have ever gone. Second, the truth of this matter is when it comes to regulatory oversight, it's the state of Illinois that has a responsibility, and we all know that when it comes to the Department of Children and Family Services, not one of us would ever call it to identify where a child is. And whether it took this crisis or whatever, we know the challenges when it relates to DCFS. I think this is the appropriate step to ensure that while children are here, we're making sure that the facilities that they are housed at meets all the standards that we as a city of Chicago expect. But I would like us to remember we're stepping into a void and a chasm right now that was created unnecessarily by an administration and also unnecessary by a state agency that does not do its job. Chairman Burke?
Your Honor, moving on to the report, item 1 on the regular agenda is the appointment of our colleague Jason Irvin as a member of the Board of Directors of the Chicago Infrastructure Trust. I must say how
no.
How impressed we were at the outpouring of support from his colleagues on the west side. Alderman Scott said it's the best side. But we're certain that he will represent the interests of the legislative branch of city government on the Board of Directors of the Infrastructure Trust in the same way that our colleague Alderman Matt O'Shea did during his time as a member of the board. Unless there's objection, Your Honor, I'd like to move the approval of the appointment by a roll call vote.
Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Alderman Moreno, Alderman Hopkins, Alderman Dow, Alderman King, Alderman Hairston, Alderman Sawyer, Alderman Mitchell, Alderman Harris, Alderman Beal, Alderman Zalowski Garza, Alderman Thompson, Alderman Cardenas,
Looks like you're due for a Garza hug.
Alderman Cardenas, Alderman Quinn, Alderman Burke, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Folks, Alderman David Moore, Alderman Curtis, Alderman O'Shea, Alderman Cochran, Alderman Brookins, Alderman Munoz, Alderman Tabarez, Alderman Scott, Alderman Solis, Alderman Maldonado, Alderman Burnett, Alderman Irvin, Alderman Talaferro, Alderman Boyes, Alderman Santiago, Alderman Wagaspack, Alderman Mel, Alderman Austin, Alderman Ramirez Rosa. Oh, Alderman Austin, sorry. Alderman Villegas, Alderman Mitz, Alderman Sposato, Alderman Lorino, Alderman O'Connor, Alderman Napolitano, Alderman Riley, Alderman Smith, Alderman Tunney, Alderman Arena, Alderman Kappelman, Alderman Pawar, Alderman Osterman, Alderman Joe Moore, Alderman Silverstein.
Ayes are 48, the nays are 0. Alderman Beal on a motion to reconsider.
Please, there's a motion to reconsider this vote.
All those in favor say aye. All those no. Call the roll. Chairman Burke.
Your Honor, unless there's objection, I'd like to call up items 2 through 20 jointly. These are appointments to various special service areas. The members of the Committee on Finance voted unanimously to approve sorry, it's 2 through 18. The members of the Committee on Finance voted unanimously to approve those. They affect areas throughout the entire city of Chicago, and I would move the same roll call, which is applied to item number 1 on the agenda, along with the same last motion to reconsider, be applied to items 2 through 18.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Your Honor, items 19 and 20 will be placed on file. Item 21, Your Honor, includes 4 orders authorizing the Corporation Council to enter into and execute settlement agreements in the case of Jane Kintenar versus the city. This is a tragic motorcycle accident where the victim was thrown from the motorcycle after striking a rectangular roadway hatch. The second one is Willie Owens. This is a matter involving a deceased represented by the independent administrator. This was a automobile accident where police were pursuing another vehicle, and ultimately there was a tragic crash that resulted in the death of the decedent. Alderman Lopez wishes to be shown as voting no on that settlement. The third one, Kenyatta Hill Cotton versus the city, is a shooting case, an off-duty police officer who shot and killed the decedent. This was a case involving an initial demand of $5.5 million, and the law department was able to settle this for the amount shown in the agenda, $950,000. And the fourth one is a case involving a lockup where a decedent succumbed, and the allegation has to do with the failure of the lockup keeper to properly supervise the lockup. So unless there's objection, I would like to apply the same roll call which is applied to item number 1 on the agenda, with the same last motion to reconsider on items 21A, B, C, and D, with the exception that the clerk be instructed to show Alderman Lopez as voting no on the matter and abstaining from the vote on the motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Alderman Harrison.
To be recorded as voting aye on the first item of finance, please.
Recognize. Second item. Don't worry. Alderman Burke.
Your Honor, item number 22 is an amendment to the 71st Street and Stony Island Tax Increment Finance Redevelopment Project and Plan. This affects parts of the 5th and 8th wards. Unless there's objection, I move to concur in the recommendation of the committee by the same roll call, which is applied to item number 1 on the agenda, with the same last motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Likewise, Your Honor, unless there's objection, I would move the same motion on item 23, which is an amendment to the North Branch Tax Increment Finance Redevelopment Project and Plan, affecting the 2nd and 27th wards, and the same motion and motion to reconsider on item 24, which is the River South Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Plan, affects the areas in the 3rd, 4th, and 25th wards. So on 23, on 22, 23, 24, same motion that was applied to item number 1 on the agenda with the same last motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Item 25 is a intergovernmental agreement with the Board of Education for the rehabilitation of the James B. Farnsworth Elementary School located in the 45th Ward. Unless there's objection, I move to concur in the recommendation by the same roll call which was applied to item number 1 on the agenda with the same last motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Likewise, Your Honor, unless there's objection, I move the same roll call be applied to a motion to approve and the same last motion to reconsider on items 26, 27, 28, and 29.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
And likewise, Your Honor, on item 30, I move the same roll call apply to item 30 with the same last motion to reconsider with the exception that I be shown by the clerk to have been granted approval to abstain under provisions of Rule 14.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Item 31, Your Honor, is a substitute authorizing Department of Planning to enter into and execute an agreement with Loop Counterpoint PACE, LLC, as the program administrator for the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. Again, unless there's objection, I move to concur in the recommendation of the committee by the same roll call which was applied to item number 1 on the agenda with the same last motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Your Honor, unless there's objection, I move to concur in the recommendation of the committee on items 32 through 38 in the omnibus.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Your Honor, that concludes the report of the Committee on Finance.
Alderman Austin, budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for your Committee on Budget and Government Operation. Item number 1, a report approving the appointment of Shannon Andrews as the Chief Procurement Officer for a 4-year term. I know that there will be other speakers, Mr. President, but I reserve my right to close.
Anybody wish to be recognized? Alderman Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great appointment. We recently moved Jamie over to aviation, and it demonstrates through her going to aviation what it is like to make homegrown professionals and put them in positions to lead this city. This appointment and Jamie's replacement is another example of someone who has had the experience and delivered in a professional fashion. As long as I've known this young lady for doing the professional work that she's done, I have to commend you and my colleagues for supporting this appointment, and I'm sure that we won't be disappointed in the work that she's doing. Welcome home. Thank you.
Alderman Villegas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to stand up and be supportive of this appointment. We'll be, Alderman Sawyer and myself, we're in constant contact with Commissioner Rhee about initiatives and ideas on how to move the African American and Latino communities forward, contracting communities forward. And we're looking to obviously have that same line of communication with you, because there's a lot of ideas that we have and want to make sure that our communities are participating. So with that, I say congratulations, and we look forward to working with you.
So the speakers, Alderman Austin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start off by saying, Mr. President, I commend you. One of our public speakers stated on yesterday that Shannon was a recycle. But as to say that this young lady started out with the city, she moved on to the county, but you saw a flower and you said, come back home. We're grateful that you plucked this flower and brought her back home. Shannon, Alderman Bill made a statement yesterday. You cannot fill Jamie Reed's shoes. You have your own shoes to fill. They're just high heels. We all know that you're going to do an outstanding job because you did one when you were here. We know that your helpmate is only but a phone call away, and that is Jamie. But all of us here in the City Council, if we can be of assistance to you, and especially on me, you have nothing but to pick up the telephone, as Alderman Villegas just said. We know that we all will be chomping at the bit, trying to get projects done, working on behalf of our communities. We know that you will still follow some of the same guidelines that Jamie have already carved out. We know that the city will be even better for it because you're there at the helm. The mayor picked a great flower by the name of Shannon Andrews. Mr. President, I move that this appointment be adopted by the same roll call and the item on the first agenda of the Finance Committee, couldn't read my own writing, and the same unsuccessful roll to reconsider.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Chairman Austin, before you go forward, I want to say one thing to Shannon. As I jokingly teased you, for the next year, you'll be referred to as the new Jamie Reed. And after that, you'll have made, without a doubt, I have 100% confidence, your own mark. You'll set your own gold standard and your own sense of professionalism. And it's true, is you do have big shoes. I mean, the Department of Procurement, a long time ago, not too long ago actually, was under investigation. You, when you were there, plus Jamie, fixed it up, and now it's a gold standard other government agencies across the country actually look to. And the reforms that were adopted at procurement and now been the standard of which we operate has actually given people, slowly but surely, confidence again in the integrity of the way we procure goods and services as a city. And I am pleased to make this nomination, pleased that it was adopted unanimously, and have all the confidence that you will do a great job and actually you'll become the standard in which we judge this position. Congratulations. Alderman Austin.
Item number 2, a substitute ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation and the amendment to the year 2018 annual appropriations ordinance necessary to reflect an increase in the amount of funds received from federal, state, public, and or private agency. The same motion if there is no objection.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Item number 3. An ordinance authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Chicago and the U.S. Department of Army Corps of Engineers, necessary for professional assistance coordinating the update Chicago River Corridor Plan. Same motion if there is no objection.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Item number 4, a substitute ordinance amending, Section 9-64-120 of the Municipal Code of Chicago relating to parking on city property. Same motion with the exceptions of Alderman Cochran voting no. Same motion if there is no objection.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Alderman Marino? Economic? Okay. Alderman Joe Moore on housing? No. Alderman Mitz? No. Okay. Walter, you ready? Alderman Spizzato would like to fill you. No. Okay. Alderman Burnett on pedestrian and traffic safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for your Committee on Pedestrian and Traffic Safety, for which a meeting was held on Wednesday, July 19, 2018. Before the committee, there were 201 items. there were 187 routine traffic items that passed and 14 routine items that did not pass. There was one substitute ordinance introduced by Alderman Brandon Riley of the 42nd Ward, which was an amendment of the Municipal Code 9-64-206 per hours of operation for parking meters at West Ontario Street, South Side between North Wells Street and North Franklin Street. If there's no objections, I move for the passage of these ordinances in the omnibus. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. We're out to break it. Okay, Alderman O'Shea. Aviation. Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for your Committee on Aviation, for which a meeting was held on Thursday, July 19th, 2018, room 201A. The committee had one appointment for consideration, the appointment of Ms. Jamie Rhee as Commissioner of the Department of Aviation. The appointment was approved by a voice vote by the committee members. If there are no objections, Mr. President, I move to concur in the recommendation of the committee by the same roll call as item 1, Committee on Finance.
I think some members want to, if that's okay, reserve the right. The others would like to speak, if we could.
I just thought we covered that in committee last week.
I knew you were getting there. I was just testing you, okay? Alderman Harris. You'll get this.
Jamie, you were the bomb where you were at, and you will be the bomb over in aviation.
It's kind of a funny thing to say about aviation. Somebody called TSA. Alderman Harris. We're not doing this, Alderman Harris. That's all right. Alderman Burke, I think the wrong agency's getting investigated personally. Okay.
Y'all steal my quote. But, Jamie, it's all I'm saying is that it's going to be real refreshing over there. But no, Jamie, on a real serious way, I'm happy to see you go on to some other things and transform the other universe over there. So I'm not happy for you to leave where you were at, but I really think that you will transform aviation. Love you. Look forward to working with you.
Alderman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too support this appointment. Jamie, you have been amazing for me and my staff as soon as you walked in the door, making sure that the issues that we have in terms of procurement are met. Your staff has been on point, and that leadership reflects that. And so I am just so happy that you have been appointed to this position to oversee all of the great new work that's going to happen out at our airports. I don't think the mayor could have picked another person that could have shepherded this job through the way that it needs to be in terms of minority support on both African American and Latino. And so again, Mr. Mayor, I just am so happy that you appointed her. Congratulations, and look forward to working with you.
Alderman Villegas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, rise to support this appointment. And Jamie's done a terrific job at procurement. And I know that she's going to do a terrific job at aviation. I'm looking forward to working with her and creating some ideas that allow for Chicago firms the ability to perform on this mega project that's occurring at O'Hare. I would also ask that that there be some expedited hiring at the airport in order to make sure that as this project rolls out, that Commissioner Rhee is successful. So with that, if you need any assistance, please feel free to reach out. Thank you, Jamie.
Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, rise in support of this appointment. I think it's a terrific appointment, Mr. President. Jamie, you are a 150%er. Always give 150%. No stone is ever left unturned by you. I cannot wait to work with you. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City Council. Mr. Mayor, I applaud you on this appointment. Right? Jamie, you have proven yourself over the years, and you work well with others. You open the doors, you provide opportunities, you give guidance, and you bring people along. And that's a very rare talent, and it comes from the heart. You make people, you make businesses, and you make the city a better place. I am confident that you will do the same at the airport. I know before this appointment, I've got like 3 things already on your radar for the airports, and I wish you the best. I will help you. And so on behalf of the people in the 5th Ward and on behalf, or as Oliver's mom, I say congratulations.
Alderman Austin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess the entire city council is grateful for you going to the airport. But I'm going to miss your bubbly personality here in City Hall. If you're ever feeling down, all you have to do is call Jamie. She's always got that smile for you. But as all have said, we're grateful for you going to aviation. And at our committee hearing, Alderman O'Shea waited to the very last on his one item. It took us an hour and a half. But it was more than well worth it for an individual such as yourself. Mike, you're going to see her less now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Solis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jamie, congratulations on a job done. I can't think of anybody who I would rather see in the aviation with the opportunity you have that has got the challenges and opportunities that we're going to have in front of us at the airport. So thank you for your service, and I expect a lot of you, and we all expect a lot, and we're confident you're going to do the job. Thank you.
Alderman Cortez. Go ahead.
I too join on this appointment. Tremendously talented, and get this, she knows procurement very well. So congratulations on this. When you think of teams, and this is a great addition to aviation, but you do the pitching and the hitting and the catching and the coaching and all of those talented positions that are needed. And it's just good to see that you can move around from different areas and do so well. I remember the days of procurement when it wasn't well run, to be honest with you, but you came in, you cleaned it up, you set some programs in place, people had expectations, you met the expectations, exceeded expectations, and this is why you were so loved, right? You got married in the process, and you got a family now, got a great-looking husband. You're still awesome, beautiful, so don't change. Please keep up the good work, and by all means, share your knowledge. Thank you.
Alderman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is no doubt this is the best appointment that you have ever made as Commissioner of Aviation. Not only because she is a proud resident, constituent of the 26th Ward, and she leads the ward every time that she walks the streets because of she's always smiling, even to the gangbangers that live around there. But also she knows government in and out, and she has a hypersensitivity to the need for MBEs and WBEs, minority businesses, to prosper and to have opportunities. Not only she did it with the city of Chicago, but I know that you are going to be able to expand those opportunities at the Department of Aviation. So congratulations, and I'm looking forward to be working with you.
Alderman Irvin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, just to echo some of the words that have been stated, this is probably the most logical appointment that in government that I've seen, given what's going to happen out there. Your shepherding of our procurement process, knowing how important it is to all of the constituencies here in the city of Chicago. I don't think we could have found a better person to lead this department in such a time. So congratulations on your appointment. Good luck, Godspeed, and again, just break us off something real good.
We're going to review again the infrastructure trust vote. Alderman Sposato.
still, I too support this appointment. Jamie, sorry I wasn't there that day for the appointment. A little unclear to me if I was on the aviation committee at the time or not, so, but as you know, I certainly back you. My house is 5 minutes away from your office, so let's do lunch once or twice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Have them pay. Alderman Royas. Alderman Royas.
Amy, I can only describe you as an amazingly young, talented lady, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Jamie? Oh, Alderman Burke, Chairman Burke.
I'll be brief. There's very little I can add to what's already been said, and I'm sure that each and every member of the City Council would like to say something complimentary to the new commissioner. When she called to tell me that she had been appointed and sought my vote, I didn't hesitate. She and I are both graduates of DePaul's Law School, and we both learned in first year in law school a Latin phrase, res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. How could we find a better appointee, a commissioner who is quadrilingual, 4 languages? Mr. President, have you asked any of the other commissioners if they can speak 4 languages?
It would not be a requirement for hiring.
But
we'd have a lot of people.
What a wonderful selection. And I know I've used this phrase in the past, but let me say it again because I can't think of anyone who would epitomize that adage more than Jamie, and that is that it is important, nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice, and that is what she epitomizes. Congratulations and good luck.
Mr. Chairman? That would be you, Mr. Chairman.
I just set up a couple calls. I thought we'd be here for another hour. That's 15 minutes. We'll never get back.
Go on.
Jamie, looking forward to working with you. If there are no objections, Mr. President, I move to concur in the recommendation of the committee by the same roll call vote as item number 1 on the Committee on Finance. The same unsuccessful motion reconsider.
There are no objections, so ordered. Jamie, before we go on to the next committee, I know we have a full day, but I just want to, you and I had lunch the other day, so you knew personally how I feel. But for public purposes, no. Right person, at the right time, for the right mission. Nothing more needs to be said. Congratulations. Alderman Marino, Economic Development.
Chairman.
Alderman.
Mr. President, reporting for your Committee on Economic Capital and Technology Development, for which a meeting was held on July 20th, 2018, and having under consideration the following 5 items. R 2018-677, support of a Class 6B tax incentive for property at 2639 through 2659 South Damon Avenue. R 2018-680, support of a Class 6B tax incentive for property at 5000 South Holman Avenue. R 2018-682, support of a Class 6B tax incentive for property at 217 Northwestern Avenue. 02-018-5002, support of a Class 7C tax incentive for property at 5214 through 5232 South Archer. 02-018-4997, support of a Class 7A tax incentive for property at 6535 South Pulaski Road. All of which were concurred by a voice vote with no dissenting. If there's no objection, I move passage of these items by the last most favorable roll call of the Committee on Finance and associated unsuccessful motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Thank you. That concludes my
Alderman
report.
Joe Moore, Housing.
Thank you, Mr. President. I understand you called me when I was indisposed. My apologies. Mr. President, members of the City Council, the Committee on Housing and Real Estate held a meeting on Monday, July 23rd. Pursuant to that meeting, I have a series of items to report, recommending passage of the following appointments and ordinances sponsored by Mayor Rahm Emanuel. 5 sales of city-owned properties through the Adjacent Neighbors Land Acquisition Program in the 20th, 27th, and 29th wards. 5 negotiated sales of city-owned properties in the 16th, 20th, 24th, 27th, and 28th wards. 2 sales of city-owned properties in the 1st and 3rd wards. 1 release from open space restrictions for a previously sold property in the 24th ward, and 1 redevelopment agreement for previously acquired parcels in the 24th ward. On this matter, Alderman Burnett asked to be abstained from voting on this item under Rule 14. These ordinances were passed unanimously by the committee members present at the committee meeting. If there is no objection, I move for passage of these items by the last most favorable roll call vote of the Committee on Finance and associated unsuccessful motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Okay. Alderman Raboyes, Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of City Council. Reporting for your Committee on Public Safety, which held a hearing on July 19, 2018, I hereby recommend the following for passage. Item number 1, R2018-676, adoption of Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan and the City of Chicago Annex to the plan. Item number 2, A2018-82, a communication concerning the appointment of Joseph L. Lapari as the Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety. As Chairman of Public Safety Committee, I wish to speak, but I'll defer to any of my colleagues if they wish to make any statements.
Anybody? Alderman David Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. I did not have the opportunity.
Alderman Moore, before we start, it's just a request if anybody else will speak. They have a young child who is sleeping, so I'd like everybody to be quick, to the point. We've, all of us that have been in that position, neither parent is breathing right now. So they cannot hold their breath for 20 minutes, okay?
Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to remember that, Mr. President. I wasn't able to make it to the Public Safety Committee. I want to commend you on this appointment, but to recognize that the importance of this appointment as we deal with the issues that we're dealing with within our city right now. It's a position that you must definitely have not only some compassion, but also be very aggressive in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of making not only transparent of the issues that we're dealing with within our departments, but also to focus on community engagement within the entire department. I want to let you know that you have my full support, and anytime that I can be of any assistance, I want to be there to assist in any way. And I want to congratulate you and your family, your children, and try to be brief before that baby wakes up, and just wish you the very best in your new position. Thank you.
Alderman Burnett. Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to be long. I'd just like to congratulate you on this appointment, and also the IG, Inspector General. He has a very promising resume. You can feel that he's going to do well and be fair, and we look forward to seeing his great work. Congratulations to you and your family, and thank your wife and the kids for their patience.
Alderman Irvin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, the Deputy Inspector, I think this is something that, if given time, will give the benefits that I think we want to see in a police reform effort. I know we have not had a real opportunity to see that after the appointment and departure of our first deputy, but given the time, I do hope to see the reforms and the going below the first layer that's needed to help reform our department and bring forward the type of service that our residents would like to see. So good luck in your charge, and anything we can do to help you, please let us know. Thank you.
Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome to Chicago, Joe number 2. Glad to have you here. Best wishes to you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Raboyes.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I want to welcome Mr. Lipari, wife and children back to Chicago. Mr. Lipari has an extensive profile, if you haven't heard. He grew up in Louisiana between many cultural differences. In fact, he came to Chicago to study the focus on U.S. and African American history. Later moved back to New York and decided to come back to Chicago. In recent years, Mr. Lipari has led investigations to the New York City's use of force reporting, crisis intervention team, and training and dispatch procedures, just to name a few of his accomplishments. I'd like to welcome Joseph Lipari as Inspector General for the Public Safety for the City of Chicago. I'm very excited. I look forward to working with you. I will call you and work closely with you in your office to assist us during these difficult times that we're dealing today, and establish trust and rebuild its oversight agencies. I also want to commend Inspector General Joe Furskin for having the ideas and getting the right person for the right job here in Chicago, and I thank you for that. If there's no objection, Mr. President, I move for passage by the last favorable vote on the Committee on Finance associated with the unsuccessful vote to reconsider.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. You can breathe. Congratulations. I'm going to meet with you privately. We won't talk now, given everything with the baby. Congratulations on this appointment. Thank you. What's next? Alderman Mitz, licensing.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the members of the City Council, I'm reporting for the Committee on Licensing and Consumer Protection. We held a meeting on July 18, 2018, to consider the following ordinance. Item number 02018-4988, an ordinance to amend Section 3-24 of the Municipal Code regarding a surcharge associated with shared housing and vacational rentals. Mayor Emanuel, Commissioner of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. 4 ordinance regarding moratoriums in the 17th, 25th, 37th, and 48th Ward. An ordinance to amend the code regarding regulating graffiti, implementation, and materials were referred to Committee on Finance. That item number was 02016-4000. These recommendations were concurred in by a voice vote of the members of the License Committee on July 18, 2018. Mr. President, I move that the City Council concur in the recommendation of the License Committee by the last roll call of the Committee on Finance and the same unsuccessful motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Thank you. That concludes my report on the License Committee.
Alderman Tunney, special events. What's that? No report. Okay. Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting on your Committee on Transportation and Public Way meeting held on July 19, 2018, the following ordinances passed by a majority of the members present. Page 2 through 51 includes 600 ordinances for a grant of privilege introduced by the local alderman, and pursuant to Rule 14 and Section 2-156-080 of the Ethics Ordinance, Alderman Tunney abstained from voting on ordinance number 02018-5823, page 38, item 1. Page 52 and 53 include 37 ordinances for canopies introduced by the local alderman. On page 54 through 57 includes 45 ordinances for sidewalk cafes introduced by the local alderman. On page 58 through 62 include 38 ordinances for miscellaneous items introduced by the local alderman. On page 63, item 1 includes an order for a enclosure at the Chicago Avenue Lakeshore Drive underpass during scheduled hours located in the 2nd Ward. Also, on page 63, item 2 is the renaming of portions of Congress Parkway as Ida B. Wells Drive, located in the 4th and 42nd Ward. And I believe that Alderman King and Alderman Riley would like to speak on this particular item.
Alderman King.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe my co-sponsor, Alderman Riley, stepped out, but I want to thank you, Chairman, for bringing this to a vote or to the agenda. Ida B. Wells was, a phenomenal woman. I said earlier today she was kind of the original boss. She did things during a time when her life literally was at risk of, she was at risk of losing her life. This moment today is a historical moment, a bittersweet moment because it also acknowledges that there has never been a street downtown named after a woman and or a person of color. And so it's long overdue, but certainly somebody like Ida B. Wells and her legacy is an appropriate name to have as the first woman and or person of color in the downtown area of Chicago. I've been having people call me throughout the country, and they're trying to figure out if it may even be the first person of color and perhaps woman downtown. So I challenge people to see that. So I applaud the City Council because I believe almost every single person signed on to this ordinance. If I'm not incorrect, all of us did. And so I appreciate that support. Just a couple things of note that Ida B. Wells did, because the more that I've been involved with this, the more I found out about just how phenomenal she was. Her great-grandkids were here earlier today at a press conference. But a couple of the things that people may not know about Ida B. Wells, and I won't belabor this, but she was a huge part of the suffrage movement for women in the city of Chicago and in the nation. The state of Illinois, women got the right to vote almost 10 years before the 19th Amendment was passed, and she was a huge part of that. During the March on Washington, when the suffrage movement marched on Washington, Ida B. Wells refused to march in the back where they relegated the people of color to, and ran up to the front and marched with the women's delegation. That's just kind of a small representation of the type of woman that she represents. But what that represented to us here in the city of Chicago is after women got the right to vote early, it changed the face of the City Council of Chicago. It diversified the City Council of Chicago. We then got our first person of color on the City Council. Took a little longer to get the first woman, but large things that she put her life and limb on the line for, we all stand on her shoulders. Another thing in terms of kind of her anti-lynching movement, she shifted the paradigm back in the day when lynching was really an accepted thing that was done in our country. She really brought light to the fact that people were lynching under the guise of black men supposedly raping white men. She flipped and shifted that paradigm and said that, not only is that not occurring during a time when, white men were actually abusing African American women, and then they were using lynching as a tool to get property, to just a number of things. She brought light to that back and actually had to flee Tennessee, and then that brought her to Chicago. And then in Chicago, she stood with Frederick Douglass, really, handing out pamphlets on anti-lynching. She then went to Europe and spread the word in Europe, and was really just a very popular woman back then. So, I'm honored to be able to play a small part to have her legacy lifted up in a way that it deserves. I want to thank Alderman Riley, and I know he wants to say a few words, but thank you, Alderman Riley, for understanding her place in history, for understanding the importance of it, and for helping to shepherd this day into fruition. So I want to thank you for that, and just say that I'm proud today to have played a small part in having a street downtown named after a wonderful woman whose legacy is so deep. If you get a chance, just read a little bit about her and you'll understand why this street is so deserving. And so, Alderman Riley, again, thank you. I know you want to say a few words.
Alderman Riley. Thank you, Mr. President. I think Alderman King hit all of the key biographical details, but I want to say that I'm incredibly proud to have worked with Alderman King on this initiative, and I think we also owe a debt of gratitude to the League of Women Voters and the 50-plus civic organizations that got behind this effort. I agree with Alderman King. This honor probably should have been conferred to her many years ago, but she truly is one of Chicago's genuine heroines. Every place she went, every geography she moved to, she made a big impact. Obviously, she spent time in Memphis as an educator and also operating a newspaper there. And her reporting of those lynchings ultimately led to the destruction of her printing press, and she essentially had to flee Memphis for her own personal safety. That's how she came here to Chicago. And thank God she did. Ida B. Wells was an incredibly powerful leader in the women's suffrage movement, as was noted. The state of Illinois gave the women the right to vote years before the 19th Amendment was ever ratified. And she also did a lot to move the civil rights movement in the right direction at a time when many people weren't so involved. She's one of the founding members of the NAACP, and I think there aren't many Chicagoans with as impressive of a resume or track record as Ida B. Wells. And so, Mr. President, I think this is a long-deserved honor. I'm glad we're getting to it today. And again, I think that this is something that all of us on the City Council, because we all did co-sponsor this ordinance, this is something we can all look back on years from now when we're out of public office and be very proud of this. This is a legacy we'll leave to future generations. And another thing that I've really enjoyed about the debate over renaming Congress after Ida B. Wells is all the press coverage that it's generated. A lot of folks in Chicago didn't really know that much about Ida B. Wells and her incredible track record of accomplishments. And so my thanks to the news media for giving this as much coverage as it's gotten. It certainly is well-deserved. But I've had constituents come up to me on the street asking me questions about Ida B. Wells. And I know that the family has successfully raised the funds they need to erect a monument to Ida B. Wells. The coverage around that has also generated more interest. And so this is a really excellent day for the city of Chicago. This is a proud moment for me. And again, Alderman King, thank you for your leadership and your hard work in pushing this forward. I'd also like to thank Chairman Beal for helping administer the public process and consideration of this ordinance. So thank you, Chairman. And that said, I urge and I vote. But again, congratulations to all of us. I think this is a great way to honor a very important Chicago leader. Thank you, Mr. President. Anybody else? Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Moving on. Also on page 63, item 3 is an ordinance to amend the time limit for a curb loading zone for commercial vehicles located in the 42nd Ward also. If there are no other questions, I request these matters be placed in the omnibus, and that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Alderman Dow.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the City Council. Reporting for your Committee on Human Relations, a meeting was held on July 17th. I hereby recommend that the following resolution do hereby pass. A resolution introduced by Mayor Emanuel, City Clerk Valencia, together with Alderman Solis and others, concerning federal immigration policy discussed extensively this morning. I move to apply the first most favorable roll call vote of the Committee on Finance and associated unsuccessful motion to reconsider this item. This concludes my report.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Alderman O'Connor, Workforce Development.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Reporting for your Committee on Workforce Development and Audit, a meeting was held on Friday, July 20th, considering the reappointment of Salvador A. Cicero as a member and chair of the Chicago Human Resources Board. The matter passed unanimously by committee, and if there be no objection, I move that this appointment, which would end on July 19th, 2023, would be passed in the omnibus.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Alderman Solis, Committee on Zoning.
Thank you, Madam President. Presenting a report for your Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards, which held a meeting on July 24th, 2018. The following ordinances were passed by a majority of the members present. Pages 1 through 3 contain various map amendments. Page 3 contains large signs over 100 square feet in area, 24 feet above grade. I hereby move passage of these items by the last most favorable vote of the Finance Committee report and the associated motion to reconsider.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
That concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Alderman Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a motion to suspend the rules to allow for immediate consideration of a resolution honoring human rights activist Clara Mukandenti.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Thank you, and if the clerk could read the resolution into the record, please.
Clerk, please read the resolution.
Whereas Clara Mukandenti is not only an asset to the city of Chicago, but a mentor, role model, and advocate for refugees, immigrants, youth, and women across the world, despite the hardships she has faced in her own life. Whereas the City Council has been informed about the exceptional humanitarian work and perseverance of Claire Mukandenti by the Honorable Brian Hopkins, Alderman of the 2nd Ward. And whereas Claire Mukandenti left Kigali, Rwanda, when she was 15 to escape the Rwandan genocide, an ethnic conflict which brought deaths of thousands of Rwandans, she traveled through Africa to have a better life with her husband, child, and sister, and they were eventually granted asylum and arrived in the United States in 2000. And whereas upon arriving in the United States, Claire and her family received generous support from Illinois families who helped them navigate their new life. For the first 7 years in the United States, Claire cleaned hotel rooms to make a living. And whereas after those 7 years, Claire accepted a job at the Uptown Neighborhood Health Center in Chicago. In addition to working a day job at the Uptown Neighborhood Health Center, Claire also took night calls at her apartment from other refugees in the neighborhood when they needed help translating official documents or paperwork. She was fully equipped to help with language barriers as she speaks 4 African languages, English and some French. And whereas Claire worked for Pan-African Association, a Chicago-based nonprofit whose mission is to serve and promote the integration of refugees, asylees, and immigrants from several countries. She thought of herself not just as a teacher, but as someone who has lived as a refugee and is familiar with many adverse challenges they face. And whereas in 2017, Claire founded Women United for Refugees and Immigrants of Illinois, a nonprofit organization focusing on providing resources, guidance, stability, compassion, expertise, and skills to encourage individuals to become independent and productive members of society. Claire felt so grateful and blessed by the love and support she received upon arriving in the United States that she felt inspired to establish Women United. And whereas on April 30th, 2018, Claire spoke at Deerfield High School's 4th Annual Genocide Commemoration Day, an event that honors victims and survivors of mass killings. She was joined by Holocaust survivor Steen Metz and expressed the connection she felt to him as they both have experienced great hardship. Whereas despite the adversity present in her life, Claire Mukandenti has proven to be a formidable opponent to the challenges she was presented with and has shown incredible perseverance throughout her life. She should not only be commended for her determination, but for her kind heart and yearning to help others. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the mayor and members of the City Council of the City of Chicago, gathered here this 27th day of June 2018, do hereby recognize and commemorate and celebrate the dedication and incredible life of Claire Mukandenti has shown to members of the refugee and immigrant communities. Be it further resolved that suitable copies of this resolution be prepared and presented to Claire as a token of our gratitude and esteem.
Alderman Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam President. These are troubling times we live in. You need look no further than our own country, our own backyard, to see what happens when the seeds of human hatred are allowed to be sown, germinate, based on fear, based on suspicion, based on the things that we perceive divide us as a people. What can happen? What happened in 1994 in Rwanda was a horrific example of genocide. Nearly 20% of the population was murdered during a several-month spree of hatred, like the world hadn't seen since the rise of the Nazi regime in Europe. At that time, Claire Mukandente was a 15-year-old girl, living the life of a normal 15-year-old girl, concerned with what her friends were doing, what music she was listening to, who might be dating who, when her nation exploded into a bloodbath of genocide. She and her family found her way as refugees to America, which opened their arms to her family, embraced her. She settled in the uptown community, started a new life, and rather than succumb to the seeds of hatred which destroyed her family's life in Rwanda, she immediately set out to stand as a beacon of hope, of justice, of love, of fellowship, of friendship, of reaching across divisions. She's been working ever since at the Uptown Neighborhood Health Center, using her multilingual skills. She speaks 4 African dialects. She speaks French as well as English, to reach out to all communities, to help people in need, and to stand against the type of hatred that at its extreme results in murderous genocide. We're proud to call her a Chicagoan. We're proud of all the work that she's accomplished in her life, and she's here with her family, and we honor her today for everything she's done for us to stand for love in the face of hate. Thank you, Claire. We salute you.
Alderman Hopkins, you wish adoption of this resolution in the omnibus?
Yes, Madam President.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Alderman Moore.
Asking for the making a motion for the temporary suspension of the rules. I know we've had a long day here, and one of the things that you promote are our youth in terms of the interns and everything like that. Some of them from CPS, their weeks are finishing today, but some came down here today, and I just want them to stand up and be recognized as they sat through the whole council to see how things go. So if you don't mind, make a motion for the temporary suspension of the rules to recognize these children.
Okay, hearing no objection, so ordered. Can we have the interns stand up?
Okay, you all please stand. Lonnie, you all please stand. I have Jayla Barber, Lamario Barber, Trinity Lloyd, Jarian Litter, Latrell Smith, and Lonnie Chambers. They're doing an excellent job, and I just want to thank you all so much, and I want to thank them for sticking this through.
Matters on the agreed calendar. There we go.
Your Honor, with regard to the consent calendar, I'd like to ask leave of the body to add matters for Alderman Scott, Alderman Brookins, Alderman Burnett, Alderman Moreno, myself, Alderman Hopkins, Alderman Scott, Alderman O'Connor, Alderman Sawyer, Alderman Wagaspack, and Alderman Moore. And with those additions, Your Honor, I'd like to move the adoption of the consent calendar.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. New business, the clerk will call the wards, beginning with the first.
Claims, free permits, license fee exemptions, which are referred to the Committee on Finance. Zoning amendments, which are referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Traffic regulations, traffic control signals, and traffic signs, which are referred to the Committee on Pedestrian and Traffic Safety. Grants of privilege on and over the public way, which are referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Exemption from physical barrier requirement for commercial driveway alley access for parking facilities, which are referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Moreno has a proposed ordinance for amendment of the Municipal Code, Chapter 5-12, by adding a new Section 5-12-115 concerning notices for rental rate increases, which is referred to the Committee on Housing and Real Estate. Alderman Moreno and Alderman Villegas have a proposed resolution calling for hearings regarding the denial of GCA's maintenance contract and accepting Sexodent Magic's contract for Board of Education and Chicago Public School properties, which refers to the Committee on Economic, Capital, and Technology Development. Alderman Dowell has a proposed order for the issuance of permits for signboards at 2101 South Wabash Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Sawyer has a proposed ordinance for vacation of public ways in the area bounded by West Marquette Road, South Wentworth Avenue, West 68th Street, and South Yale Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Beal has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Section 2-8-040 by modifying requirements for honorary street name designation. It refers to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Beal also has a proposed order for historical landmark fee waiver for the property at 11241 South Champlain Avenue, which refers to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Sedlowski Garza has a proposed ordinance for amendment of an ordinance which created a personal property lease transaction tax exemption for Tower International, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Thompson has proposed orders for the issuance of permits for signboards, which are referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Cardenas and others have a proposed resolution to call for hearings on the differences in natural gas costs to city residents, which is referred to the Committee on Health and Environmental Protection. Two committees called, the Committee on Health and the Committee on Finance. The matter is sent to the Committee on Committees, Rules, and Ethics. Alderman Quinn, Alderman Burke, and Alderman Taveras have a proposed order to call for hearings on the odorous windows and doors issues installed in the northwest and southwest neighborhood homes as a part of the airport sound installation program, which is referred to a joint committee comprised of the members of the Committee on Aviation and the members of the Committee on Finance. Alderman Burke has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code, Chapter 4-4, by adding a new Section 4-4-308 regarding face geometry data, which refers to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Burke also has a proposed resolution to call for the Superintendent of Police to establish a pilot program to create database containing photographs of individuals arrested, individuals with outstanding warrants, and missing persons, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Burke and Alderman Solis have a proposed resolution to call on Governor Bruce Rauner to sign the Immigrant Tenant Protection Act and Safe Zones Act, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Burke and Alderman Solis also have a proposed order to call for legal actions against President Donald Trump's efforts to engage in long-term detention of migrant children and to eliminate critical child care oversight, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Burke, Alderman Solis, and Alderman Raboyes have a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code, Section 5-8-010 and Section 5-8-020 that prohibit discrimination based on family origin in obtaining fair and adequate housing, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Brookins has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code, Section 4-60-022, to allow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of South Racine Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Taveras has proposed orders for the issuance of permits for signboards, which are referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Scott has a proposed order for the issuance of permits for signboards at 3555 West Ogden Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Scott, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Moore, and Alderman Riley have a proposed resolution to call for hearings on Cook County State's Attorney and the U.S. Attorney's Office's investigation of allegations of cash giveaways to prospective voters of New Covenant Baptist Church, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Rules. Two committees called. The matter is sent to the Committee on Rules. Alderman Solis has proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code, Section 4-60-022, to disallow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of South Blue Island Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Solis has proposed orders for the issuance of permits for signboards, which are referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Maldonado has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 9-64-170, regarding limited neighborhood parking exceptions for commercial pickup trucks and vans on residential and business streets requiring special parking permits, which is referred to the Committee on Pedestrian and Traffic Safety. Alderman Burnett has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 4-60-023, to allow additional package goods licenses on portions of West Randolph Street, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Burnett also has proposed orders for the issuance of permits for signboards, which are referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Irvin and Alderman Burnett have a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 4-60-022, to allow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of South Ashland Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Raboyes has a proposed ordinance for donation of a city vehicle to Menanti, Puerto Rico, which is referred to the Committee on Public Safety. Alderman Raboyes also has a proposed ordinance for donation of a city vehicle. Alderman Wagasback has a proposed order to call on the Commissioner of Streets and Sanitation to perform an audit on the City of Chicago's recycling program, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Wagasback has a proposed ordinance for honorary street designation as Michael Isaac Green Way, which is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Wagasback also has a proposed ordinance for vacation of the public ways in the area bounded by North Elston Avenue, North Damon Avenue, and West Fullerton Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Wagasback and Alderman Arena have a proposed resolution to call for hearings on the status of recycling contracts with Waste Management and Management Midwest and the criteria used to award Blue Cart Recycling Services Program, referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Mell has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 4-60-022, to allow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of West Montrose Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Mell also has a proposed order for issuance of permits for signboards at 2901 West Addison Street, which is referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Villegas has a proposed resolution to call for hearings on the 5-year detailed plan to repair, replace, and upgrade city streets, bridges, sidewalks, and other public ways, which is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Villegas and others have proposed orders for the issuance of a series of Build Chicago Neighborhood General Obligation mini bonds, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Mitz has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 4-60-023, to allow additional package goods licenses on portion of North Laramie Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Mitz also has a proposed ordinance for an honorary street designation as Honorary Clifton P. Lewis Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Spizzato and Alderman Napolitano have a proposed resolution to call for hearings by the Office of Inspector General and the Cook County State's Attorney's Office regarding investigation into the events as described in Kevin Lett's federal lawsuit, which is referred to the Committee on Finance. Alderman Spizzato, Alderman O'Shea, Alderman Scott, and Alderman Napolitano have a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, Chapter 2-152, by adding a new section 2-152-175 concerning agreements by appointees to forego local office, which is referred to the Committee on the Budget and Government Operations. Alderman Napolitano has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 4-60-022 and 4-60-023, to allow additional alcoholic liquor and packaged goods licenses on portion of Northwest Highway, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Riley has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 11-4-2835, to further regulate use of construction, repair, and demolition equipment within Central Business District, which is referred to the Committee on Health and Environmental Protection. Alderman Riley also has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, section 9-64-206, concerning parking meter hours of operation on portion of West Ontario Street, which is referred to the Committee on Pedestrian and Traffic Safety. Alderman Riley also has proposed orders for the issuance of permits for signboards, which are referred to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Alderman Tunney has proposed orders for creation of public alleys in area bounded by North Clark Street, West Irving Park Road, and North Racine Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. And Alderman Arena has a proposed ordinance for approval of a plat of subdivision LSCD of Jefferson Park LLC re-subdivision, which is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Public Way. Alderman Moreno has a proposed ordinance for amendment of municipal code, chapter 5-12, by adding a new section 5-12-115 concerning notices for rental rate increases, which was referred to the Committee on Housing and Real Estate. Alderman Burke has an ordinance for a donation of an ambulance and fire truck which is referred to the Committee on Public Safety. Alderman Solis has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Section 4-60-022 to disallow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of South Blue Island Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Mell has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Section 4-60-022 to allow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of West Montrose Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Brookins has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Section 4-60-022 to allow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of South Racine Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Urban and Alderman Burnett have a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Section 4-60-022 to allow additional alcoholic liquor licenses on portion of South Ashland Avenue, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Riley has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Section 9-64-206 concerning parking meter hours of operation on West Ontario Street, which is referred to the Committee on Pedestrian and Traffic Safety. Alderman King and others have a proposed resolution honoring Keith Keller for his tireless work and representation to the Service Employees International Union. The matter has been included on the agreed calendar. Alderman Quinn and others have a proposed ordinance for amendment of Chapter 4-156 concerning automatic amusement devices, which is referred to the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. Alderman Munoz has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Chapter 2-84 regarding regulation of gang database, which is referred to the Committee on Public Safety. And Alderman Wagaspack has a proposed ordinance for amendment of Municipal Code Chapter 2-179 concerning police officer misconduct, which is referred to the Committee on Public Safety.
Chairman Burke for approval of the journal.
Your Honor, I've sent up to the clerk a motion to approve the Journal of Proceedings for the meeting of June 27th. I'm not aware of any corrections.
All those in favor of the correction signify by saying aye. Okay. Unfinished business.
Your Honor, I'm unaware of any notices filed regarding unfinished business pursuant to Rule 41, so therefore there is no unfinished business.
Miscellaneous business.
Your Honor, I'm not aware of any unfinished business.
Date and time of the next meeting.
Your Honor, I've sent up to the clerk a communication with an ordinance setting the date and time for the next regular meeting of the City Council to be September 20th, 2018 at 10 a.m.
Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Alderman Burke has an ordinance setting the date and time of the next meeting of the City Council of the City of Chicago for Thursday, September 20th, 2018, at 10 o'clock a.m. in the City Council chambers in City Hall.
Thursday. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Ordinance is passed. Roll call on the omnibus.
Alderman Moreno, Alderman Hopkins, Alderman Dowell, Alderman King, Alderman Hairston, Alderman Sawyer, Alderman Mitchell, Alderman Harris, Alderman Beal, Alderman Sedlowski Garza, Alderman Thompson, Alderman Cardenas, Alderman Quinn, Alderman Burke, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Folks, Alderman David Moore, Alderman Curtis, Alderman O'Shea, Alderman Cochran, Alderman Brookins, Alderman Munoz, Alderman DeBarris, Alderman Scott, Alderman Solis, Alderman Maldonado, Alderman Burnett, Alderman Irvin, Alderman Telefiero, Alderman Roboyas, Alderman Santiago, Alderman Wagisback, Alderman Mel, Alderman Austin, Alderman Ramirez Rosa, Alderman Villegas, Alderman Mitz, Alderman Spizzato, Alderman O'Connor, Alderman Napolitano, Alderman Riley, Alderman Smith, Alderman Tunney, Alderman Arena, Alderman Kappelman, Alderman Pawar, Alderman Osterman, Alderman Joe Moore, Alderman Silverstein, President Pro Tem Lorino.
On the omnibus, there are 49 yeas and no nays. The matters in the, on the omnibus, there are 49 yeas, no nays. Matters in the omnibus are passed. Alderman Harris.
Consider every item on the agenda.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? The motion fails. Alderman Burke on a motion to adjourn.
Your Honor, there being no further business before the body, I move we do adjourn. Move we do adjourn, yes.
All those in favor of the motion to adjourn signify by saying aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. The council is adjourned.